Hello and welcome to another episode of the Uncommon Energy Podcast. We've got NAIC coming up this weekend. And on this week's episode, we're going to start off by breaking down some tips for your first IC. NAIC is going to be the largest international championships of all time, the largest Pokemon tournament in the Western part of the world of all time. So I'm sure there will be some people out there who it'll be their first ever large Pokemon event. And this is a different beast than regional. So we'll give some kind of tips and thoughts about that for the first time goers at the beginning of the episode. We will, of course, have Guess That Flavor Text, everyone's favorite segment of the podcast. And then the bulk of this week's episode is going to be us breaking down our tier list for the North American International Championships format. We'll give our thoughts on all of the different decks. We're going to put them in a tier list about how good of a play we feel like they are for this specific tournament. We're also going to predict what we think the meta share percentages are going to be for all of these decks. And then after that, we're going to wrap it up over on our bonus episode exclusive to our YouTube channel members and our Spotify subscribers. So wherever you're listening to us, if you want to get a little bit of extra content and show a little bit of extra support to us as well, you can do that by becoming a member and getting 30 extra minutes of content from us every single week. My name is Chipper Chi, joined here as always by my friend and co-host, Azul GG. What's up, Azul? How we doing, buddy? You ready for NAIC this weekend?
Still preparing. I didn't end up streaming today and preparing anymore because the fridge broke. So
Yikes.
went out to go get a new fridge or whatever.
That is
Well,
an L.
didn't fully break. It's just like it's definitely on its last legs, and like half the freezer is not working anymore. It's not cooling very well on the fridge side of things either. So
It's like one of those things where it got to that point where it's like, yeah, we could spend a few $100s to get it repaired, or just go ahead and buy a new fridge that we're probably going to need soon anyway, right?
yeah, pretty much. So got that taken care of. So I didn't stream today, so that is cutting into my preparation time for NAIC. But I've got tomorrow, Monday, Tuesday, and we're not going to be recording on Tuesday anymore, so I'll have a little bit more time to stream that day. So I'm going to probably try and nail down what I'm going to play tomorrow, grind some games with that, and then just kind of grind that for a while on Tuesday. Not as much time as I would like to have put preparing for the tournament, I guess, but I have been playing quite a bit in the format. I've definitely narrowed down like the list of decks that I want to play, and I've been like working on all the lists as I've been playing with them. So I'm getting close.
Are you like
So
hard committing to this process? Like you're going to pick a deck Monday or Tuesday, go to the tournament? Or
yeah,
are you going to be like, if you show up and say Caleb and Grant have something that they think is super good, like out of nowhere, would you
I mean, I would
switch to that?
Yeah, I would potentially switch for sure. Like I'm gonna try and lock in the 60 cards or like, 62 cards and then pick the final 60 total. Like, yeah, if I end up with like 62 different cards, 60 cards plus two other cards that might go in and out, whatever,
Sure.
going into NIC, that's fine. But then if we plan to grind some games on Wednesday, maybe Thursday with Grant and Caleb. So if we can come to a conclusion on something just that seems like better, then I'd rock that instead or come up with some broken concept. Because I've like talked about this recently as well. There's like the best way to think about it is like most of the time you should just play what you're most comfortable with, but there is like a risk versus reward factor, right? Where even if for any player, if the deck is so good, or if you think the idea or concept is so good, it doesn't matter how much you misplay with it, it outweighs how good you would do with the deck you're more comfortable with. You should make the switch if you're trying to maximize your return, right? Your
Do you have
result.
any examples of that from tournaments over the years where you weren't super prepared but got a broken deck right before the tournament?
There were some times where I like last minute switched to decks before the tournament with like zero games, but I just thought it was a really good play. Like Lurantis, Vileplume, when I won with Night March Zoroark. I was gonna play Turbo Dark or something like that. I remember even I think I tweeted out the night before the tournament. I was like, "You have no idea what I should play, which I play." And I think Philip Schultz responded to me, and he's like, something about if you're playing, you get to play expanded. How are you not playing Turbo Dark or something? And then he either like posted the list or I DM'd him to get the list from him, and I almost played that, but then I ended up playing Peter Kika's Joltic or Night March Zoroark instead. So yeah, there's been like a couple times
And you won both
where
those tournaments you just gave examples of.
yeah, I won both those tournaments. Like those are the ones that come to mind most freshly. But then there was like the time where I like won Orlando, and that was like that was one of the times I was most prepared for a tournament, and not even in terms of like purpose, purposely being prepared, but it's just the deck I'd been playing for a really long time leading up to the tournament. I'm like, Yveltal Garb is pretty good. Like, I feel like I can beat most things, and I had, even though my list wasn't that good, I had by far the best deck at that tournament. Like, it wasn't even remotely close. Um, but that's like an example of where it's just like I just found a deck that I liked, and I kept playing with it for a long time, for like over a month leading up to Orlando Regionals, and I just played it at the tournament, and they worked out that time too. So I guess like in the moment, more recently in the moment, it hasn't come up. I'm trying to like think like back into back in the day, because like it'd have to be like pre DDG days, because like the DDG days were like all last minute innovation deck
Yeah.
builds. Like we'd all come together a day or two before the tournament and just like come up with the play. But like pre DDG days, a lot of it was still pretty similar to that, but um yeah, a lot was still pretty. I wasn't like there's way more tournaments I went into unprepared than prepared for sure. Like the Galissapod Garbodor deck that I played to get second at Madison Regionals. That was like night before talking with one of the people I worked with back then, and we came up. We were like, just how can we be as annoying as possible to beat Zoroark? And it's like four enhanced hammer, Garbodor, Galissapod, like, and then that's what I ended up playing at that tournament. So a lot of it is kind of last minute. More of it's last minute than not, but it's definitely different now. And I think the landscape of the game has changed to the point where being more prepared has higher value for sure. Like making misplays, I think gets punished harder in today's game than it used to. So the innovation, last minute innovation, isn't worth as much as it used to be. But so yeah, it's harder to get that last minute innovation to be worth it versus just being more comfortable for sure in the current landscape of the game. But yeah, I got a couple days. We'll see how it goes. Um, Feeling pretty comfortable in the format and meta in general. I don't have anything crazy. I'm looking at like stuff like Golden Go and Grimmsnarl. So, but also got to watch some Pokemon over the weekend to help prepare a little bit. Watched the Taiwan Master Ball League. I think it's the second to last Master Ball League. There's one in Singapore 2 weeks after NAIC, the week after the Japan Championships, I want to say.
I think that's right.
And I think that's the last major tournament before Worlds will be the Singapore Master Ball League. So that'll be the final major tournament before the World Championships. But yeah, in Taiwan, it was interesting. The first round we watched. It was just top 32, so we only saw 5 rounds of the tournament. But Diplin versus Dragapult with a Dusclops. It's like the Henry Brand build with the 1/1 Dusclops, and it kind of smashed the Diplin. The Dusclops did a lot of work. I don't think that's a matchup Diplin is hoping to see in general. But
That was the
I
finals
mean,
of the Korea tournament. Is that what you
no,
just
no,
said?
no. It was top 32
Okay. Okay.
of the Singapore tournament or the Taiwan tournament. But there was apparently there was like 2,000 players at the tournament in Taiwan.
Jeez. And
That's
Diplin
what
gets the 32, bro. That's
Diplin got to
insane.
32. Yeah.
Holy cow.
So who knows? Maybe there's something there. I think when Silver Bangle comes out, there definitely is a little bit more to look into as far as the Diplin goes. Diplin's been like slowly accruing power. It feels kind of like Zorobox. Like Zorobox got like a new card every set, and it was never good.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, it was definitely interesting. Raging Bolt dominated the tournament for sure. It was finals was Raging Bolt versus Raging Bolt. We saw Raging Bolt almost every single round after the first round. I want to say zero Gardevoir. I don't know how many were in top 32, but we saw zero on stream. We saw only one Dragapult on stream and
Did you
zero
see
Grimmsnarl.
Grimmsnarl?
Zero Grimmsnarl on stream. That doesn't mean they weren't in top 32. We didn't see that many matches. Like I said, we saw the same person multiple times. But Golden Go was in there. Saw a couple. Golden Go made its way, but we don't have any results to look at, unfortunately. So we only have to go off of the stream results. So a lot of Raging Bolt. Raging Bolt was killing it. And I feel like that's also been the results, online tournament results, is Raging Bolt's been doing very well. And I think a big reason for that is Grimmsnarl is really good against Dragapult and Gardevoir, and Raging Bolt's really good against Grimmsnarl.
And
I
it's
feel
not
like,
like it's terrible against Dragapult. It's not great against Gardevoir, right? But it's
yeah.
not like terrible against Dragapult either. So that kind of
Yeah, the
makes
matchup.
sense.
Yeah, the matchup is probably shifted to close to 50-50 or maybe slightly Dragapult favored because they have Shaman now. As long as they play
Mhm.
Shaman, they have that. That's like a huge difference maker for Dragapult in the Raging Bolt matchup. But I'm feeling like the closer we get to this tournament, I feel like Raging Bolt is like like I'm kind of getting scared of playing Grimmsnarl. Like that was like my top pick for a long time. But the Raging
The
Bolt matchup
bolts are
is
gonna be in
tough.
full force, bro.
I think yeah, I don't think Raging Bolt is going to be like ridiculously popular, but I think it'll be really successful. I think it's lining
Really?
up. I think it'll be pretty successful. Yeah.
Dude, that's like a crazy take because think of for how long Raging Bolt was like one like what the first or second, like the second most played deck solidly, and just never had any tournament finishes. Was not
Yeah.
poised to do
It
well,
struggled.
but it was the second most popular deck for every single tournament. And we're coming out of a format where it was alternating between the second and third most popular deck. I see no world where Raging Bolt is not one or two, to be honest, for the most popular deck at this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be up there. Like, I think it'll be third, but
I don't
I
know,
think,
man.
dude, it's actually speaking of like what I have prepped with so far for NAIC. So I played the other day. I don't even know. I switched between a couple decks, but out of like legit, just I don't know exactly how many games I played. But let's say if I played 20 games, I was in like reasonably high ELO, like 1700, and I think people start to struggle to find games at like 1850 or something like that. If I played 20 games, 18 of them were against Dragapult. Now I did hit like the same opponent multiple times, of course. But I was only hitting Pult at the I think Pult's gonna still be super popular. I think that is part of it is that though so many people have been playing fall. It's like it's almost like Pult. I think Pult's gonna do really poorly at NAIC, I feel like. But I think a lot of people are still playing it because that's what they've been playing for so long. And like
Sure.
Pult, not enough people got pushed off Pult last format. Is like the thing. Everyone just kind of kept playing it. So now going to this format, people are just like still playing it. So that's where my prep has been at so far. A little bit to catch up on. But yeah, we had the results for the most two tournaments. Oh, the finals of the Korean tournament. I only watched the finals because they were going on at the same time. Was Dragapult versus EVBox, and EVBox pretty handedly beat the Dragapult there. Um, they went to like they did end up going to overtime, but it was like there was like zero DPS in play, or like on the turn where they are going into overtime, they tied up 2-2 prize cards, KOing the only DP in play. So there's like no
Hmm.
hope for a comeback or anything like that. I guess I also mentioned Joltic box was pretty prevalent over on the tournament in Taiwan. We saw two Joltic boxes, I think, at least on stream. Um, so they were doing pretty well over there. There's something else I was going to add with that, but I don't quite remember. But yeah, those are the two major tournaments that happened on over the weekend. Tuned into those. What about you though, Chip? What were you up to this weekend?
Dude, I
Week.
was getting crazy FOMO about the Switch 2. And really not really mostly just like I guess it was mostly today and some of yesterday, to be honest. So, like, I kind of told myself all the way leading up to the Switch 2's release that I wasn't going to get one. I'm going to get Pokemon Legends ZA when it comes out later this year. I'm kind of, my thought process was like, that's the only game I really want to play anyway. Like, Mario Kart's cool and fun. I would play it, but like, I don't have to play the new Mario Kart game, you know?
Mhm.
Um, and so I was like, yeah, I'll just hold out until Pokemon Legends ZA comes out, and maybe they'll do some cool special edition console, and I'll get that. But then I saw all the people like lined up outside of like GameStops and Best Buys and stuff like that. I actually drove by a GameStop on like the Wednesday before and there was just like this huge line of people lined up, and it was actually kind of I saw people posting about it online, like reminiscing about like old school console releases. Like that's what it felt like to them, like the Xbox 360 midnight release or like the PlayStation 2 midnight release. Like it felt like just very old school. Because everything's like so online now, you don't really like see that type of stuff very much anymore. But people were like generally excited about it, it seemed like. And then after seeing all of, I don't know if any of this bled over to your timeline at all. Um, but the thing that made me really wish I had just gone and gotten a Switch 2 was seeing how good Scarlet and Violet look on that console. It makes me think like almost it makes me feel like that game was like developed on the Switch 2 and then it was like we're putting it on the Switch 1. That's like what it makes me feel like because the game looks so terrible rate wise on the original Switch and then just seeing people play it on the Switch 2. It looks like I saw someone tweet like if this game had come out on the Switch 2, people would be calling it like the best Pokemon game ever because the game is good. It's a fun, good game, but like all that stuff drove it down so bad how terrible the game looked whenever it came out, right?
Yeah, I didn't see any compare. I'm actually just googled some comparisons here, and it is quite a big difference for sure.
Let me
I'm looking at some
show
images.
I found because there's some areas in the game too because the Pokemon spawn in the overworld, right? Um, there's some areas in the game where
Oh, that is quite a big difference, yeah.
yeah, there are some areas in the game where like the game would just be like a PowerPoint where you're trying to go through like the infamous lake area with the big dondozos and stuff spawning in. It's like the game doesn't even really work that well. It doesn't seem like because too much is happening on the screen. But on the Switch 2, it looks amazing. It looks great. Actually, I saw this tweet too. I'll show this one where someone did like a side by side of the opening sequence of Pokemon Violet, where you like encounter this Miraidon with a Houndoom, and it just the frame drops. They start them at the exact same time. The only thing slowing down the bottom one, which is the original Switch, is like the rate drops, right?
Yeah.
And you can just like look how quickly it falls so far behind.
That is kind of funny as well because usually like that happening in video games is not uncommon, but it's usually due if it's like a PC game, it's because you have a slower PC. Or
Right.
if it was ported from PC to console, that would be another reason for that. But this game was optimized for the Switch. And then it like is still, it's like we're building this game purely only for the Switch, and the Switch can't handle it. Like it does kind of doesn't even make any sense to begin with, to be honest.
Yeah.
Um, the Switch 2 is definitely it's definitely something I want to get, but I'm not like someone who's in like also like what games are even out? Is it I seen Mario World? Is that it? Is that the only good game
Yeah.
out?
Mario Kart World is like the big launch title release. There's other games that they've put out on it, like Cyberpunk 2077 is on it.
Oh, there's a lot
Um,
of you can play a lot of Switch games on it though, right?
you
In
can
like
play
in
every
higher
Switch game on it,
performance.
I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that's
And they
like
they put out a ton of, and that's the thing with this, right? They put out a big patch, a big update that like optimized these games to run on the Switch 2. And that's part of why they look so good, man. It almost feels like I saw someone say that it almost feels like Scarlet and Violet are launch games for the Switch 2 because people are just like going back and replaying it because they're getting to experience it in a much better capacity than they did before.
yeah.
Like it's
Yeah,
like
I'm
a big difference.
yeah, I'll definitely pick one up at some point, but I'm not like I feel like also it would be like a disservice to a Switch 2 because if I got a Switch 2, I probably wouldn't use it for like a month or like that if I had like pre-ordered one. So it'd be like a
Right.
disservice for me to get one versus like, the other Nintendo fan out there who wouldn't get to use it. So I'm gonna get one eventually. I do use my Switch when I travel, but I'm not like a diehard fan. It's not something I need immediately. So I'll wait until, I can get it
Yeah.
when everyone has access to it. I don't need to pre-order it ahead of time or something. Someone will enjoy it a lot more than I will for sure. So
Yeah, I've actually been playing a bit more video games recently than I have been, I would say, like the past 3 or 4 years of my life, because, um, Samuel has started to enjoy watching me play games. So I played through Astrobot recently. I don't remember if I've talked about this on the podcast or not, but we actually just finished it this week, like, beat the main story. Gonna go back through and, like, collect all of the, little collectibles and stuff, but that game is, like, super fun, and he loved watching me play it. Now, he's not sitting there and watching me play it for, like, hours and hours and stuff like that. We are doing, like, 30-ish minutes a day, maybe, 45 minutes or so, less than an hour a day. Uh, but he really enjoyed watching me play it, and he'd say, like, "Let's go play the Astro game," and was all about it. It was a lot of fun. So, any PS5 owners that are dads out there, Astrobot highly recommend for playing with your kids.
that was the game. I remember you mentioned this game to me, I think, last time I was over there to film content. That's a game like that one game of the year, but it was supposed to be like a mini game on the PS5, right? Or something. Like it wasn't
So,
even
Astro's Playroom is like a tech demo basically for the PS5, but it's like a little platformer game that it's free with the PS5. Think like, Wii Sports came with the Wii, right? It's like
yeah.
that type of thing. Um, but they made a full-fledged game, like a platformer, like an actual game. But it feels very I would say it's more akin to like, a Super Mario game,
Yeah.
like or Little Big Planet, one of those type of games, right? But it's genuinely like so fun. And especially if you're a PlayStation fan, like if you grew up playing PlayStation games like I did, there's so many references to all the PlayStation games over the years, like so many collectibles that call back to games that like I played when I was a kid, like Jack and Daxter, Sly Cooper, and it's just like cool little Easter eggs and fun stuff like that. Um, Yeah, a lot of fun to play. I totally get why that game won Game of the Year. I remember seeing it whenever it won Game of the Year and being like, "Dude, what the heck are we like, is this the state of gaming now?" But, like, I actually played the game and I'm like, this game, it rocks. It's so good."
Yeah, 'cause I mean, like, usually the game of the year stuff is like was it Elden Ring probably won the most
Yeah.
recent year or something like that.
I
I feel like
remember
it
it
usually is like those almost like it's almost always like a fantasy game, right? Because I think Baldur's Gate 3 won whenever that game came out as well, and then maybe Sekiro won the year that came out as well. It feels like it's
uh,
usually almost always fantasy
I
like games
think
win
that
Game of the
it
Year.
It Takes Two won a couple years ago. Did that happen? Maybe so. I guess it depends on what award show you go by. What's the kinda the
Yeah, I
Game
don't even know.
Awards,
What is the
right?
one? Is that has to be
Yeah,
the
the
one,
Game
right?
Awards, which has been going on since 2014, it looks like. Yeah, so the last several Game of the Years, it's Astrobot in 24, Baldur's Gate 3 in 23, Elden Ring in 22, It Takes Two won in 2021, which Brooke and I have not finished it, but we started playing that game a while ago, and it's a lot of fun too. But I mean, that game got great reviews when it came out. So I don't think that's a surprise to anyone. But and then The Last was Part Two won the year before that. Sekiro won. God of War won. So yeah, very much usually an adventure
Yeah.
fantasy style. Like those are the games that win. So it is a out of left field thing really for the platformer Astrobot to win. Though I guess It Takes Two has some kind of like platformer
Yeah, yeah.
esque elements to it as well.
I've never played that one, but I've seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got NAIC coming up. It's gonna be. It's kind of crazy the day and age of the Pokemon TCG we're in, where and I'll have people that say this all the time in my chat. Where it's like my first tournament's coming up this weekend, and it's like a regional. Like people's first tournaments are like the regional championships. Especially coming out of COVID, that was huge because there was no locals. But even I feel like today, there's still a lot of people who don't do locals or do very little. A lot of people ask me all the time. It's like, which is honestly, it almost kind of speaks to h- I guess PTCG Live's success in that way, where people will ask me, it's like, should I go to local turn? I get this question all the time. Should I go to local tournaments before I go to a major tournament? And I think the answer is yes. You should try and have some IRL experience.
Definitely.
If you're not going to, please at least practice shuffling. Please practice the shuffling if you're not going to have any IRL experience. But you should hit up some locals or league challenges, league cups. But I'll get that question all the time. It's like, should I go to my local tournaments or locals before I go to this regional in a month? And the answer is yeah, it's probably good to get some experience. But it's kind of interesting because that question just wouldn't exist pre-COVID at all. Everyone, of course, went to locals before they went to a major tournament. It was never a question. But now there's a lot of players who are playing like PTCG Live only, and now like every other major tournament this year, NAIC, the next major tournament coming up, is going to be the first tournament for a lot of players.
Yeah, definitely first major. Some people probably first tournament ever. And for even more people, it'll probably be like their first IC. Maybe there's people out there who probably went to regionals this year, right? Their
Yeah,
first, but the ICs are really kind of a different beast. Is we've gotten to a point where they are so big. There are so many more people in the room, and there's also so much more just going on. There's a lot more fanfare. Like at EUIC this year, they had like the English pub band playing up on the stage. Last year in New Orleans, they had uh, um, like Mardi
marching
Gras
band, right?
style parade come down the center aisle. So I'm
Yeah,
excited to see what they decide to do this year because they always try to like kind of one up themselves. So we'll see what they make happen.
I'm very curious to see as well, like how much other stuff they got going on besides just the main event or the main competitions, um, of course. And for the first time in a long time for me, I actually might play in a side event. The last time I played in a side event was like 2014 Nationals, I think. But there's a there's a 2010 uh retro side event going on that I personally might partake in. And that's the thing with these like ICs and stuff like that. The side events are there's a lot more of them, and there are a lot of unique ones. And there's going to be a 2010 retro tournament.
Yeah, if you're interested in checking out the ICs, there's a website. You can literally just Google NAIC side events and you can find all the stuff. There's stuff going on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday that are like scheduled events that are set to happen at a specific time that'll be like larger field tournaments. But then there's also on demand side events that they'll just run like as they fill up, like standard round robin
Yeah.
pods. If you just show up and what they'll start you in a pod once eight total people get together, right? Um, So, and they'll have those things going on for all the different games. I will say last year at NAIC, um, they broke out some like old product and put it on the prize wall, like old Sun and Moon era booster packs and stuff. So the side events, by the time kind of word got out that that was going down, it was crazy on like Sunday how long the line was for the prize wall. People were just trying to get these old packs and stuff because they were valued the same as just regular, MSRP packs, right? So I'll be interested to see if they do something similar to that. And traditionally, over the years, when they have extra things like that that they need to kind of move on, like this is the way that they do it. Like, wasn't I feel like I remember at Worlds one year, people talking about this is before my time, but I've heard the story of like, yeah, when a tropical beach side event and stuff happening at the World Championships in the
Yeah.
past. Um,
Do they have those at the recent Worlds for, like, the other promo cards? Maybe not. I don't know.
Not often if they do, because they do usually try. I think nowadays there's more of a shift in mentality of like, this is the exclusive card to the competitors, right?
Yeah.
This is the competitor's reward. So I think they are a little more picky about what they do with stuff like that. But like at Worlds, for example, this is different from NAIC. At Worlds, there's always a side event exclusive play mat. That the only way you can get this side event or this play mat is by claiming it from the prize wall by playing in side events. I don't know if they do anything like that really at the ICs, but there is usually some like IC style merch. It might be the same as the stuff that's in the Pokemon Center, but yeah, there's a lot going on with the side events. I greatly wish I could play in the 2010 retro format that's going to be happening. I will be busy on Sunday though, unfortunately, working and casting, so I'm going to have to miss out. It is a bit of a bummer that it is only a 3-round event. I wish they would just like
Yeah.
run it as a full tournament, like even if they had to start it at 10 a.m., like start it a little earlier and run it as a full tournament. Like even this GLC tournament, it's only going to be 3 rounds and there's definitely going to be like, there's I think it NAIC a couple years ago, there was like 300 people in the GLC tournament, maybe even more than that. It was like a ton of people, and it feels a little silly to run a 3-round tournament with that many people.
Yeah, that does feel pretty bad. I feel like the GLC thing you could also run on Saturday as, like, a bigger tournament as well.
Yeah, there
And,
may
like
be one going on.
yeah, I mean, it's probably, like, just another 3 round. There probably is one, but it is probably just another 3 round. Yeah, it'd be cool to see these things be a little bit bigger. I honestly just wanna see them do something more with GLC at, like, majors in general and, like, have, like, like, not an unofficial official circuit kinda thing where they have, like, these bigger GLC tournaments at regionals on the second days, and even at ICs now, you could put on day 2 or day 3, whatever. Um, those would be
They
kinda
do
cool to
always host
see.
one on Friday at every single regionals. There was I guess I don't know for sure if it was every single regionals, but every single regionals that I noticed it at, there was a GLC tournament happening on Friday before the tournament.
Yeah, it'd be cool to see that happen at the IC as well, just something because, like, that's when there's the most people there, so, like, I don't know, it feels like people are still very much playing the format, so doing something more with that or even expanded as well, that could be, like, another thing to, I guess, to throw well, I'm not that I would personally ever play an expanded tournament, I'd play GLC before I play expanded 100%, like, but expanded does not interest me at all, but, yeah, I might play in the 2010 tournament, I wanna play in it, but it is only yeah, there's 3 rounds, no top cut, like I want to play in a tournament where you can make top cut, where there's like a winner, something like that. But I still might play in it because I do have a lot of fun with the 2010 format. There's a lot of decks I didn't play back then because I only really played like a little
Chup
bit of
it.
yeah, a little bit of SP and then Shup It. So there's like a lot of decks that I never really mess around with, but are a ton of fun to play. So might do that.
I'll probably at minimum bring my 2010 decks, so we can jam some games at some point in the weekend for sure. Also, I'm going to
Yeah.
be looking to cube a bunch at an AIC. And that's another thing too, just about like stuff to do at the ICs. There's always people just like hanging out and playing. There's always huge trade areas. There's also if you look on the NAIC website, they've also got like a list of like all sorts of different activities, trading zones, activity zones, where that's more like kitty stuff, I think, going on. There's, of course, the Pokemon Center, right? Which is a big deal at all of the ICs now at this point, or I guess EUIC and NAIC, I should say.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, they don't have one at LAIC, do they? Yeah,
they
I
have
didn't
not in
realize
the
that.
past, no.
Maybe next year. I feel like it's everything is always. Yeah, I mean, I guess yeah, it's maybe next year for the Latin American region. At this point, we're waiting for the official streams. We're waiting for the Pokemon Center. Hopefully next year. Hopefully next year.
Yeah.
because the player base just keeps getting. I mean, the player base is just huge down there. It'd be cool
But
to see
yeah,
them get more support.
all this, one of the things we wanted to say to people who it's like they're going to their first IC is like find time to do some of the other stuff, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you don't make day two, right? Don't just like whiff out on day two and then mope around in your hotel, be sad about it. Check out the rest of the venue. There's a lot that there is to offer Friday afternoon or Saturday, even Sunday. There's always tons of stuff going on. People are hanging around playing. I'm going to be trying to cube at some point in the weekend for sure, many times throughout the weekend, to be honest. So um
And then also check out with that as well. If you don't want to, if you're kind of burnt out on Pokemon, check out the city.
yes.
Um, find stuff to do. It's really easy to just, I mean, just Google things to do. In
New
whatever
Orleans is a
city.
cool city too, and there's also tons of great food in New
Yeah,
Orleans.
definitely. Especially comparatively to like Columbus or Indiana, it's like yeah, it's like 100 to 1 difference in terms of like the food availability there. So if at the very least, make sure you go to some good food spots.
Yeah, gotta check out Cafe Du Monde is like um the big touristy spot to go to for beignets, which is a New Orleans dessert. Basically, fried dough,
Yeah,
powdered sugar donuts, like very, very good. Worth going to check out. This whole area here where Cafe Du Monde is, like Jackson Square, it's all like very historic. It's an old city. So there's a lot of cool things to check out there. I think I told this story a couple years ago, or I guess last year before NAIC. I went to New Orleans in 2020, in like January of 2020, for the college football national championship with my family because Clemson was playing. Don't ask me how Clemson did in that game. Um, LSU dropped 70 points on us. But
you know no one was gonna ask, bro.
it was not fun, but it was a fun experience to go around the city and stuff. And one of the things we did that was so sick was a Cajun boat tour where they took us like through the bayou, the Louisiana bayou, and we saw where people have houses like up in the water in the swamp and saw a bunch of wildlife and stuff like that. I have a lot of fun doing those type of things. So if you're going with like family or like even a group of friends, I think finding time to do something like that would be really cool. If you're getting in on, like Wednesday, find time to do something cool like that on Thursday. Definitely something to recommend.
Yeah, definitely. I went and checked out that area as well where the Cafe Du Monde was. Went there, checked out the whole like market area
French
as
Quarter.
well. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Um, but yeah, I think I don't have much else to say as far as that goes. But yeah, make sure you check out other stuff at the venue or just kind of the city in general. And
Yeah.
don't lock yourself in your hotel room.
Well, you have like a bad experience with that or something?
No, well, not lock specifically, but yeah, don't don't. There's a lot of other cool stuff to do,
Yeah,
even if you don't make day two. But yeah, if you are, I mean, if you are competing, you'd make day one, you make day two, you're gonna be busy. It's gonna eat up
definitely.
most of your time usually. So
Yeah, I mean, other than that, like, I think it'd be kind of the normal tips we give to anyone going to their first Pokemon tournament, don't put too much pressure on yourself, kind of enjoy the experience.
yeah,
Um, just kind of take it all in and take each round as it comes. It's a long day if you've never competed at a tournament like this before. So it can be a slog for sure, but a fun experience. So just enjoy it.
yeah, that goes, yeah, for sure without saying. I think this applies to like so many factors of the Pokemon TCG that like newer players or players who are trying to figure it out a little bit, like just you're probably just overthinking. You're overthinking a lot. You just need to stop overthinking stuff from deck choice to tech choice to preparation for the tournament or like am I prepared enough or what do I need to do to prepare more, just like play some Pokemon, get a good night's sleep, um and then just play Pokemon the next day. um definitely definitely too much overthinking in the Pokemon TCG as far as like people who are trying to like get more competitive.
All right. Well, before we get to guess that flavor text, we do need to take a moment to thank our fantastic sponsor, Dragon Shield, for supporting us here at the Uncommon Energy podcast. Of course, Dragon Shield makes some of the best card gaming and tabletop gaming products on the market. We love them for their sleeves. I use the products for my cube as well, the Magic Carpet XL, the cube shells. Azul's been rocking the one of the deck boxes as well recently. Are you got your colors picked out for your sleeves this weekend?
Yeah, I didn't use them at Portland, so I've got the Amber and the Amethyst that they
The
sent me
what?
how do you say it?
Amethyst.
Amethyst.
A tamethyst?
Amethyst.
Amethyst.
Amber and Amethyst. I'm gonna bringing those with me to rock at NAIC, and yeah, hopefully we'll need uh the second pair because I usually re-sleeve going to day two. So hopefully I'm gonna be using both from day one into day two. But yeah, huge shout out to Dragon Shield, as, of course, as always, for sponsoring the podcast. Link in the description. Take you over there. Code UEPOD, UEPOD will get you 5% off and directly supports us here on the podcast. Make sure you're prepared for NAIC. And yeah.
Yeah, I'm also going to leave a link down below for these amber sleeves specifically. So if you want to play Pokemon just like Azul GG this weekend, pick up the amber sleeves. I'll leave a link for them, affiliate link down in the description. Thanks as always to Dragon Show for supporting us here at the Uncommon Energy podcast.
I guess they actually, for if you're going to NAIC, they probably want to arrive in time for NAIC.
No, it's a
But
little late. Yeah. Well, I don't
but
know. They do. It says on their website delivery in 2 to 10 business days. So
they are pretty quick sometimes. They are
they
pretty
can
quick.
be. They can be quick. They can be like say if you're not coming until Thursday. There's a shot. There's a shot.
If you're
I
local,
wouldn't. I would say it's you maybe should check out your local card shop and get some Dragon Shields there at
yeah,
this
that might
point.
be at this point, that's probably the move if you're trying to rock the Dragon Shields at NAIC. But going to next season, dragonshield.com, code UEPOD. And up next, guess that flavor text. Chip, we've had a little bit of back and forth recently. I had a little bit of it slow down last week, though. I got a 3-pointer, you got a 4-pointer, and then last week I got 0 points. And a lot of people were disappointed that I was not able to guess Porygon. But I don't know. Once I learned it was Porygon, I didn't like all of a sudden stand out to me. I was like, oh, of course, Porygon. How could I have not? How would I have like? There's been other ones in the past where like you've told me what it is. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I probably could have got that if I had thought about it a little bit harder. But a lot of people are like, oh, obviously it's Porygon. I was just like, sure, yeah. To me, no,
This
but
guy tagged us on Twitter where he was listening to it driving. It's his dash cam footage of him yelling at his car stereo not yelling at Azul really specifically for not getting Porygon
yeah,
correctly. Very funny,
definitely,
very funny.
yeah, definitely funny. But this week, I'm picking a card. Going to read the flavor text, and the Chip has to try and guess which Pokemon belongs to the card and the flavor text. For each lifeline Chip uses, he'll get 1 less point. What set the card is from, what stage the card is, then read an attack name. If he uses none of them, he'll get 4 points. Chip, are you ready for this week's flavor text?
Ready and looking to extend my lead. I'm currently ahead 37-32. Let's go. Let's hear it.
And I'm trying to just got to make sure. There's been like a couple. It's only happened once where I've like, well, once I actually read a flavor text that we had already used before, and you're like, wait, we've already used that one. But then I've had a couple times where I like have to check the spreadsheet. Shout out to Tim and Games for keeping track of the guess that flavor text game. Where I've checked the spreadsheet to be like, this one sounds familiar. Have I ever used this one before? I'll go check the spreadsheet. I just wanted to check real fast before I read this one. But this week's flavor text is: in the moment that it gulps down its prey, the inside of its shell is exposed. But to this day, no one has ever seen that sight.
The moment it gulps down its prey, the inside of its shell is exposed. To this day,
Yeah.
no one has ever seen that moment. Is that right?
Never seen that sight.
Seen that sight. Huh. Well, I mean, when you said gulp at first, my first thought was gulpin. But then obviously, as we got a little deeper, this is not going to be gulpin. I'm thinking some sort of water type Pokemon. Exposes shell. Read that bit to me one more time.
Hold up. In the moment that it wait, all of it? Just read it again.
Yeah, just read it again. That's fine.
Okay. In the moment that it gulps down its prey, the inside of its shell is exposed, but to this day, no one has ever seen that sight.
The inside of its shell is exposed. Very interesting. No one has ever seen that though. I mean, could it be something like I don't think this Pokemon has like a shell, but I'm thinking of like Toxapex or Marini because those Pokemon they're I feel like most of the Toxapex flavor texts mention Corsola specifically because they have like there's like a it's like a heat more Durant type thing there. I guess could also be like maybe a cloister or a shelter type thing. I'm thinking of just like water Pokemon that have shells that we don't see all of the Pokemon typically. Marini Toxapex doesn't really have a shell. Um, Also, when you were started talking about gulping, I thought of like Cramorant. Come on, bro, hold it together. Hold it together, buddy. I thought of like Cramorant. It has like gulp missiles, kind of its like signature thing. I'm gonna use some lifelines here. I'm gonna try to whittle this down. Let's start with what set the card is from, as always.
Vivid Voltage.
Let's hear an attack name.
Takedown.
Well, that's not helpful.
So one thing with that's funny that you say that because like, well, I never know, but sometimes I'll be like, oh, these attacks are not going to help Chip at all, and it's like I say one of them, and you're like, oh, there's only 3 Pokemon in the history of the Pokemon TCG that could possibly have. I'm like, oh shoot.
Yeah, you got Aurora Beam. I think helped me a lot one time for like Seal
Yeah.
Dugong, something like that. Um, Man, I don't know. Shell, water. I mean, I kind of think there's a cloister in that set. What stage is the card?
It is a stage 1.
And I feel like cloister could have um takedown, right, as an attack. That's like a old school OG attack, and cloister is a Gen 1 Pokemon. I don't I just can't like quite picture the cloister from Vivid Voltage, but it like sounds correct that there would maybe be one. I think there's a Rapid Strike cloister, so maybe there wouldn't be one like released so close together. Um all right, let me just hear the flavor text one last time and I'll lock something in.
The moment that it gulps down its prey, the inside of its shell is exposed, but to this day, no one has ever seen that sight.
Man. Sword and Shield. Let me think of like the Sword and Shield inside of its shell. Oh, could it be Dreadnought? Maybe actually Dreadnought. What does the how does the inside of a Dreadnought shell get exposed? Dreadnought would definitely have takedown. I know for a fact it was in Vivid Voltage because Charizard was in Vivid Voltage and Dreadnought was the opposite theme deck that released alongside Charizard. You know what? Yeah, Cloyster's not gulping anything. Let's be real, but Dreadnought's got a massive mouth, so he's gulping for sure. Actually, no, he'd probably be chomping, right? He's not gulping, he's chomping. Oh, let's just go with the Dreadnought. I gotta pick something. Lock it in, Dreadnought.
It is not Dreadnought.
Well,
I'll give you the other attack name, which definitely helps way more than what I was gonna than what the first one I used. The other attack name is Double KO.
wow, that helps so much more. Why does that help?
There's only like 2 Pokemon that like knock out themselves and knock out your opponent's Pokemon.
Oh, instead of a shell, is it like Wheezing or something? Wheezing doesn't have a shell.
It's Fortress.
Fortress.
Yeah, I knew this was gonna be a tough one. The Pokemon that I thought you would maybe end up on would be like Glalie. Like when I read that, I was like, that's the one I came to, besides actually Fortress, but it
Wow.
is that one.
Fortress. Wow. Yeah, I don't know.
But it makes when you read it, then you all of a sudden you look at it, you're like, oh, there its eyes. What is on the inside of the
Bro, it
shell?
doesn't have a mouth. How is it gulping
It's
anything?
the shell opens like you see right there where its eyes. It opens up. Whatever's in there comes out, gulps them up, and goes
You
back
that
in.
I don't know that that's how that works. I don't think that's how
I
that
have to
works.
assume. How else would it work? Maybe
I
this is
don't
just
know.
like maybe this flavor text was never supposed to exist on this card. Someone's just trolling.
The moment that it gulps down its prey. Wow.
Where's
Yeah,
it like where is its mouth? It's gotta open up, right?
I feel like this was a hard one for sure. Y'all have to let me know in the comments if I should have gotten this one or if you were equally as struggling as I was. Why did I lock in? Oh, I locked in on the water Pokemon thing because of the word shell. So that's kind of like
Yeah,
why I
I
went
mean, that's
down that
reasonable.
path.
Turtles.
Yeah. And I knew there was a Dreadnought in this set. So
Yeah, I didn't think you'd ever get this one. I thought this was a pretty tough one for sure.
yeah,
With
unfortunate.
the 'Cause I don't yeah,
Ooh,
none of that things would ever make you think of Fortress, unless I had said double KO. That's the only thing I could would was like, all right, maybe if I say double, so I have to say takedown for sure.
uh classic moment in the PKM and cards comment section. Does double KO work with Altered Creation GX? Knock them out, get the extra prizes, 4 energy to do that. Might as well load up a Zacian, I'd say.
Does it?
I'm pretty sure I'd have to read the card again, but I'm pretty sure it's when it's knocked out by damage from an attack, right?
I don't remember.
Knocked out by damage, yeah.
Okay, so the answer is no.
This is an effect.
Unlucky for the Fortress ADP player.
Yeah,
Okay.
MS91. I hope you find a better combo.
Just thinking about that, has that ever happened? Have you ever seen someone like play a deck at a tournament where the combo just doesn't work? They like brought a
Not
deck to a tournament thinking a combo worked and it just didn't.
I'm certain it has happened. I've
Yeah, for
definitely
sure.
more commonly seen people queue up on ladder with stuff like that. Stuff just
Yeah.
doesn't work the way they think it does. I'm sure I've probably done that at some point.
Actually, speaking of that, I played against a Grimmsnarl player who had the protective goggles in their Grimmsnarl deck, and they put it on their Grimmsnarl, and then I knocked them out with a Galvantula anyways because it only works on basics to remove the weakness. But
Oh,
they were like, I've got the tech. I removed the weakness from the, and honestly, it would be pretty good in Grimmsnarl, I think, because a lot of the answers that people are playing to be able to want to kill the Grimmsnarl, like Joltic Box and stuff like that, their answer is a grass Pokemon. But yeah,
do
protective goggles only works on basics.
I remember having a moment like that where someone retreated their Pokemon with a rescue board attached that had it, then they didn't have to discard the energy. And I was like, dude, what the heck is going on? Why did they not have to discard the energy? I like checked every single effect on the field. I was like, I don't think I missed anything. Like, how did they retreat this Pokemon and not have to discard energy? It's because they had less than 30 HP remaining, which is the
Yep.
secondary effect of the rescue board. That was like when the card came out. I remember that.
Yeah, I had that realization literally. Well, no, I've definitely done it before, but I had like a real realization of that, of like it actually being like an actual like thing that can come up in a matchup playing Miraidon into Dragapult because
Yeah.
they punch your Iron Hands for 200 damage, and you can go rescue board, retreat to Raichu, knockout. And I didn't, I didn't have it come up ever in Merida.
That's
It
like a
came up in
broken combo right there.
Yeah, I came up in Vancouver, and I was like, I remember that that was like a thing. I was like, oh wait, I just retreat for, and I Raichu knockout, cool. Like that's actually pretty good in this matchup. Like that's something
Sick.
that would actually come up. But
That's really funny.
yeah,
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get into the meat of the episode here. NAIC tier list. So, what we're going to do for this, shout outs to Trainer Hill, great resource for these tier lists, for and also just for information about what's doing well in online tournaments. We're going to be looking at all of the decks that have done the best in online tournaments in the last few weeks and place them in where we believe they belong on this tier list, and also kind of give our thoughts on the meta share that we think they'll have at NAIC. It's a little difficult to predict. I think the tournament's going to be so big, right? Well, I guess does that
doesn't really
really
change.
does
Not
it
really,
really change it
no.
that much?
Nope.
Maybe not.
I think when tournaments are really small, that's when
I almost feel like the
well,
bigger it gets, though, the more top heavy it gets, right? Because
maybe. Well, I guess that would
more
be
people
true,
will just
right?
roll up and play like you'll get more like less dedicated players, right? People who are just showing up with
Yeah,
a
the
deck that
ratio.
they know
Yeah,
a little bit and are just showing up to play, right? And those people will favor playing things like Raging Bolt, Dragapult, Gardevoir, like the most popular decks in the format. So it probably weights it a little top heavy, if anything, right?
the ratio of like innovators to non-innovators get bigger as the tournament gets bigger.
Probably, right? Because the innovators are already going to every single tournament, right?
But if it's 100 to 1 across the board, every 101 players that get added to a tournament, it's still 100 to 1, right?
I don't know
Or does
that
it
we're
grow?
adding an innovator for every 100 players.
Yeah, I don't know
And
where it
like
breaks off.
some of the innovators we're adding, they're playing their, homebrew single prize Porygon rocket stack.
Yeah. What I've been saying recently, I feel like, is about like I think it feels like if the tournament's more than 1,000 players, like that's where it hits like that's actually like the general major tournament metagame. Maybe it needs to be a little bit more than that. Maybe it's like 1,500 plus though. But I feel like generally when we look at like the metagames from tournaments from like the past 2 seasons, if the tournament's at least over 1,000 players, but even though some of the ones that are just like under 1,000 players, generally the metagames kind of track together pretty reasonably. There's nothing crazy going on. Um, I think for this tier list as well, there's so many decks that we're doing. I don't think we should think about S tier as S tier. Just think about it like tiers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Unless we think there is going to be an S tier deck.
Yeah, I mean, we're thinking about the play for this tournament, right? Like, if anything, and I don't know that there is anything in my mind that just stands above the rest at the moment, you know?
Yeah. I don't honestly, and having thought about it a lot more over the weekend and like thinking about it right now, I have 2 decks that I would put in not S tier, but tier 1.
Like the highest tier.
Yeah. I have 2 decks that I put in tier 1.
Grimmsnarl Raging Bolt.
Yep. I think
Yeah.
so.
I think that's pretty reasonable too. And I think that these will be the 3 most popular decks. Now, if you broke down Dragapult into all of its variants, these would be the 2 most popular decks, right? But things will be grouped up. So, like, you
Yeah,
put all the
Dragapult will
Dragapults
be number 1.
together, it'll probably still be number 1. But I do
Yeah.
think Gardevoir is out of the top 3 for this tournament,
In terms of
for sure.
popularity.
Yeah, in terms of
Yeah.
popularity, for sure.
Probably number 4.
And, yeah, Grimmsnarl pretty easily slots in and takes that place.
It might be pretty close with Grimmsnarl though. Like those two might be both like 11 and 10 or something in terms of percentage numbers, like 11% Grimmsnarl, 10% Gardevoir.
Well, do you think Gardevoir has lines and ways to handle Grimmsnarl?
Yeah, I
Or is
actually don't think the
Grimmsnarl just a
matchup.
bad matchup?
I think the Grimmsnarl matchup is like 65-35, which isn't like terrible.
It's pretty bad.
I would maybe closer to 64. I'm currently leaning towards saying it's closer than worse, and it also depends if they play Shaman. I think the Shaman's a pretty big deal for the Grimmsnarl matchup actually to have on Grimmsnarl's side to stop Screamtail picking off stuff off the bench. I've thought about the matchup a lot. I haven't played it a ton, but the more I think about the matchup, the more I'm like, it gets pretty tough once you kind of force the Gardevoir player to go through the active. Of course, they have counter catcher, but um,
Currently does look like Shaman is in 79% of the Grimmsnarl decks.
yeah. At first, I was trying to not play it in Grimmsnarl, but I think it's too good for that matchup and the Raging Ball matchup.
This is another tool I really like on Trainer Hill, by the way. Just want to call this out of like being able to see on the online
Yeah.
tournaments what people are playing in their deck. And most people are favoring the Shaman.
Yeah, and there's like a certain percentage number where you just say everyone's playing it, and I would say 70% plus. You should just assume everyone has it basically at that point.
Yeah.
Like through your tournament run, if you hit 3 Grimmsnarls, they'll probably all have Shaman. Not always, of course. You might hit one that doesn't, but likely to be planning it was the Shamans. Especially if you also think it's correct, then it's like as the tournament progresses, if you're right and it is correct to play Shaman Grimmsnarl, the Shaman Grimmsnarls will rise to the top theoretically. So you always want to assume you're correct.
Do you want to rate all 3 of these Dragapult variants separately, or should we just delete the Charizard Dragapult ones and just like rate Dragapult as a whole? Or should we break it down like this?
I actually think I actually kind of like the idea of rating them separately for this tournament specifically.
Yeah.
Until we can truly identify, because I'm not super confident in saying any of them are actually like terrible right now. Even Charizard Dragapult, I think Charizard Dragapult probably will have is the worst of them going into this tournament. But I think actually, if the meta actually does shift away from Dragapult in general, then I think Charizard Dragapult becomes probably the best
I think
Dragapult
so.
variant. But I don't know if we're there for NAIC, so I think it's gonna have a tough time against the other Dragapults. But do we want to put some meta percentages first for these two?
Yeah, and let's do that. And I think that, if since we're splitting up Dragapult here, I mean, Raging Bolt is just going to be leading the way here, I think. And I think it's going to be like 14, 15%.
Jeez, chill.
What was it
Yeah,
in
14. You might
let's
be right.
see. Oops. Balone. It was 13
Give it 13.
in Portland. It was 13.7.
Let's give it 14. Also, it is a better
It
play
only
now.
gets better,
Yeah,
right?
the deck has gotten better for sure. As it's a better play than it was last
I mean,
format.
I think it's
Definitely.
like solidly 15, to be honest.
Chill. All right, sure. We can rock it. I think Grimmsnarl. I'm not sure. I think it's gonna be 10 plus. Until I actually it's kind of weird for decks like Grimmsnarl. Until I like actually see the numbers, I'm not really confident to give it like 12 or anything like that. But
Yeah.
it has been like the most popular online deck, and it's actually interesting. I I can't remember the last time that the new deck that is the most popular deck has been this successful in online tournaments.
It's doing
Been a
really well.
while.
And it's
Yeah.
really interesting too because I don't know if this would be the case if we didn't have the results from the Japan Champions League, right?
Also,
Where
we've had it for longer, I guess, as well, right? We've had Grimmsnarl Frostlass for a
true.
month before the tournament, so maybe it's more people had it's not as fresh. But you're right, Japan gave us a really good starting point for
Yes.
people to work off of. Still one of the I feel like yeah, it's like even just like highlight that. I feel like one of the greatest, not one of yeah, one of the best runs from like a group of like players who test together, or so it seems because they all played like the same 59, or three of them had the same 60.
Yeah,
Four of
in
them in
this modern
top
era,
16,
yeah.
four of them in top 16 in a Japan Champions League where the variants are like higher because it's best of one is pretty crazy to be honest. Um, like post COVID, that might be the best run from a group of players that we've actually had. Um,
I
in
mean,
the
I think this is definitely over 10 in the meta share, and it's probably like closer to 12, honestly, but I'd be down to leave it at like 11. What do you think? I mean, do you agree that it's like definitely over 10?
I definitely going to be at least 10. But I wouldn't be surprised if it was 10. I guess is how I kind of feel about it. But let's give it 12. Let's give it 12.
I'm down for 11.
All right, sure. Get in there at 11.
11, I think, is fine.
I think we should tackle the next couple big decks here in place. Get them out there, or get some of them out there. We can start with the
Yeah.
Gardevoir.
Yeah, let's start with the Gardevoir, and it does feel like it's a little bit weaker than it was just because it did gain this hard matchup in Grimmsnarl, which
Yep.
is going to be a much more popular deck. Everyone knows Grimmsnarl is going to be a popular deck and played deck for this tournament, right? So I would have a hard time really putting Gardevoir above B tier, I think. I think it's obviously
Okay.
still really strong.
I think we have actually are starting to enter a meta where it's okay to take these harder L's that I feel like me and you usually talk towards. It's like, why are people playing this deck when you just lose, right? If your goal is to win, you can't play this deck. Now, if your goal is not to win, of course, that changes. But I think you can lose to Grimmsnarl at this tournament. Um, because stuff like Raging Bolt is favored into Grimmsnarl, and Gardevoir has a favorable Raging Bolt and Dragapult matchup, which are going to be two of the other top three most played decks, right? Like, I don't
Sure.
think Grimmsnarl is poised to be like four of the top eight, right? Where it's like, okay, at that point, it's like last format when we were like, if you're supposed to win, why, like, can you really bring Dragapult to a tournament? And I think the answer was no. That if you're trying to win a tournament last format, you can't really show up with Dragapult. You shouldn't show up with Dragapult. And it was crazy because Dragapult was still 20% of the meta. And it did win once, actually. Did it win twice? It didn't win that much, actually, because Gardevoir kept kind of stopping it in top cut. Um, yeah, Dragapult actually, I was gonna say, I was about to be like, Dragapult still won a lot. It didn't though. It like won once, or twice. So yeah, I think Gardevoir's A tier though. I think Gardevoir is actually still a really good play, but
Sure.
it's not where it was. It's definitely a step below where it was because of Grimmsnarl now.
Okay, sure. Yeah, and I do think it will still probably be decently successful. Because good players do tend to play Gardevoir, right?
Yeah,
I don't think that's going to change. Henry Chow will almost definitely be playing Gardevoir, right?
I don't think he's
Uh,
last minute golden going ever again.
so yeah, I feel like Gardevoir will do decently. And if you've been playing Gardevoir, which many people who are going to show up to this tournament with it have been playing it for quite a while now, right? It's probably still fine to stick with. I guess, yeah. You've convinced me out of the B tier for sure. I do think it is going to be a sub 10% deck at this tournament, though. I think it is going to take a little bit of a step back. Let's see, what was it
Fine.
at? It was 13 in Portland's. I mean, maybe 9, 10, something like that. But yeah, maybe it would be right around 10.
Yeah, actually, the more we're talking about this, I'm kind of arguing myself to almost wanting to put Gardevoir in tier one, to be honest, because like good Raging Ball matchup, good Dragon Ball matchup, and then some of the decks that people are playing to be favorable against Grimmsnarl, the Joltic box, the Flareon, also good Gardevoir matchups as well. So you have the bad Grimmsnarl matchup, but what else are you unfavored against? And Grimmsnarl has its own problems. It's not like Grimmsnarl is a Gardevoir or a Dragapult, where I feel like those two decks, especially with how people kind of perceive them, didn't have really glaring weaknesses. But feel like Grimmsnarl, very powerful deck, definitely a very good play, but it has glaring weaknesses. Um, Gardevoir kind of or has glaring weaknesses. So it's not like that deck where it's like, ooh, if you can't beat this deck, like if you're unfavored against this deck, you can't play your deck. It doesn't feel that way if you have an unfavored Grimmsnarl matchup, to be honest. So I kind of almost now I'm kind of like talking to myself. I'm like, I don't know. Gardevoir maybe should be in tier one because losing to Grimmsnarl isn't the end of the world. I don't think. We can leave it here for now, though, in A. As we build out the rest of the tier list, we can maybe move stuff around.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just would feel weird to have that many decks in the top tier, you know? I feel like
Sometimes it's, I mean, I think you should never think about it that way. It just kind of is what it is. Whatever the meta is what it is, right? Sometimes there's 3 decks that seem like the top 3 decks. It could even be 4. It just means everything else probably sucks.
yeah, but I feel like usually you can find an argument for like a couple of them to stand above the others. Like it's pretty rare that I feel like that situation you're outlining is pretty rare. Like, can you think of a time in the game where there's been 4 top tier decks, like 4 decks that you would argue were like the best possible play decks for the tournament? No, right?
I mean, I'm sure it's happened. I can't like think of off the top of my head where I would put anything on that right now. I mean, there was a point in last format where you would probably have put Dragapult and Gardevoir both in tier one. And I think as we got to the end of the format, you put Gardevoir over Dragapult, but we're not always working with like there's always more information, right? Every major tournament that happens, you get more and more information. I'm sure I could go back and find meta games with like 3 tier one decks or something like that. Like going into the tournament, you would call like them 3 tier one decks. But
So let's put what Gardevoir at like 10 and we'll leave it in A for now.
yeah,
You down with that?
it sounds fine. But I'm
Okay.
more inclined to put it higher than lower, I guess is what I at least say.
So we've got 3 Dragapult variants: Dragapult,
Oh
Dragapult
boy.
Dusknoir, and Dragapult Charizard. I think this is the order in which they will be most popular, probably,
Yep.
right? Straight Bolt, Dusknoir, then Charizard, and that would be true looking back at Portland here as well, where we see Straight Bolt 11.5%, Bolt Dusknoir 6.5%, Bolt Charizard just under 3%.
So which one do you think is the worst play?
Probably Straight Bolt, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's like a big step below the other two, to be honest. I'd rather definitely play Pult Charizard, I think, at this point. I don't know what I've been saying previously about him, but I always have to like until I like really like do a tier list like this, I don't actually like think about the format that hard. Or the metagame. This definitely helps me. My thought process definitely gets accelerated because when we're doing something like this, it's almost like some kind of like exercise, right? Having to like think about the metagame. But yeah, I would put it in like C or D tier to be honest. Straight Pult.
Yeah, I'm
Maybe
down.
not. It's still not that.
I don't think it's
It's like
D tier.
C tier. Let's put it in C for now. I want to put it in C tier because like I think the other ones are gonna be placed A B. So
Yeah, and I actually think Charizard I would want to place higher than Dusknoir. What are your thoughts?
I don't agree.
Because I think the main argument against Charizard is that it struggled against the other 2 Dragapult variants, right?
they're still gonna be
And
so popular. Like they're
they
like
are, but if they're not gonna have as successful of a tournament, then it elevates the potential of the Dragapult Charizard, I think, a bit. And Dragapult Charizard also is, I think, of the 3, probably has the best Gardevoir matchup. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think so. I think I agree for sure. I think you have the best Gardevoir matchup. Um,
Yeah, and looking at win rates at Portland as well, Dragapult. So this is Gardevoir's win rates against Straight Pult, 49% win rate, against Dusknoir, 53% win rate, against Dragapult Charizard, 38%.
so we
So
know.
the data definitely backs up Charizard being good into Gardevoir, which is a positive.
And especially now that they have, if they play Shaman, protect your bench from the Screamtail, like forcing him to go into Drifloon is not fun.
Playing Dragapult Charizard together is like playing the best 2 stage 2s in the game, like just mashing it together, right? Like Dragapult EX broken card, Charizard EX broken card, like, and it just maybe so happens that the best way to play Charizard right now is to jam it with the Dragapult.
I still think that the other builds of Pult are gonna be too popular, piloted by too good of players. It's gonna be too successful for Pulsar to really succeed. So I still put Pulsar in B. I think I still put Pultnor above Pulsar. But I think as the
Can we
meta
put them
progresses,
together in E? Is that
well, then I
fair?
think you put them together in A. Then at that point, well, so the Pults are coming up short against Grimmsnarl, short against Gardevoir. The Raging Bolt matchup, but it's not like terrible matchups either. Like the Grimmsnarl I don't know.
Dragapult,
The Guardy's pretty tough.
Charizard, I feel
Guardy's
like is
pretty good.
definitely better against Bolt than these other ones, right?
That's true as well. You're
That's what
getting the
my
better Bolt
intuition would
matchup.
be.
You're getting the better Bolt matchup. You're getting the better Gardevoir matchup. I think Grimmsnarl is just good against all builds of Pulse. Like I think he's just favored against all of them.
So at Portland, Polt was, I mean, this is pre-Shaman, right? So that's a big deal for these matchups. Bolt was losing to straight Polt, 43%, losing to Dusknoir, or
Oh,
beating
beating.
Dusknoir, 58,
That's interesting.
and beating Charizard as well, 54%.
Hmm. Although I
Maybe
guess one thing you could couple with that though is a lot of really good players were playing straight Polt. I don't know how much that impacts, but
Sure.
actually put the day 2 filter on. Let's just see how much it changes, if it changes at all.
It's less sample size, though, is the only problem. Oh, we should do the thing where we can group it together.
Oh, true.
So we'll do Boulogne, Portland, Santiago, Utrecht, Melbourne, Milwaukee. Should we do all of these?
Sure. I
All the way
mean,
down to Atlanta?
I wouldn't go too far, but actually no, I would get rid of a couple because like there's the newer tournaments are gonna have a little bit better information. So get rid of like Atlanta, Monterey, Seville,
Okay.
Milwaukee on. I think that's pretty good.
So variant grouping. Or well, here, let's look at Raging Bolts. Day 2 filter on. Losing to
Oh
Straight Bolt,
my
37, getting
gosh.
dumpstered.
Chill.
Dusknoir, 48%, Charizard, 43%.
One thing I will put out there as well, like, and I bring this up all the time. It doesn't mean
This is the day 2 filter on, by the way.
yeah. But like the quality, the level of player that plays Bolt compared to Bolt is like pretty drastically different, though, right? So that the skill diff, I think, is probably going to show up pretty heavily in these percentages. But I would be confident last former to say that Bolt was definitely favored against all Bolt builds. Personally. But I think you're probably right. The Charizard build probably has the best matchup against Guardy and Raging Bolt. But I just feel like, you're coming up short to the other Pults, and we think Pult's going to be the most popular deck still. So I don't. Maybe both.
Well,
Pults just stay in B.
Let's do these
maybe
percentages first. Let's do these percentages first.
Okay. So straight Pult going to be the most popular, probably, right?
And I think,
or maybe just copy what they did. Just copy the percentages.
I mean, do you not think it goes down? Do you think it stays the same?
It's not going to be 20%. Yeah. So maybe like a little bit of a hit across the board on each of them.
Straight Pult was 11.2%. So
maybe it's like 844 or something like that.
Because I think it's reasonable for Dragapult Charizard to come up a bit, for sure.
Definitely. 944.
844, 944.
I'm actually coming around a bit. Maybe I think you're right. Maybe all the Pult should be below Guardy. They should be like 2 of them in B. They should just both be in B tier, and then straight Pult in C. Maybe it'll make its way to D tier. We'll see.
Okay, feel good about where we're at right now.
Yeah, looking good.
Let's keep moving. We'll go on to Joltic Box.
Yeah. So the big struggle for Joltic Box, honestly, is that it has a poor Raging Bolt matchup, and I'd say it's unfavored to Gardevoir, but it's like pretty close. Like you put a lot of pressure on Gardevoir, but those are 2 matchups that are like not great to have like bad.
We saw people
bad
teching at
matchups
the end of
into.
the format for Gardevoir as well.
Or were they having the Vitality Band and stuff like that?
Yeah, and like the Mountain, and which I know you're not a big fan of that card.
Actually, my most recent build that I ended with had mountains in it, but I was going no Clefairy, double, almost. I didn't ever put 3 mountains in there, but I was about to put 3 in there.
Its Grimmsnarl matchup, I feel like it's probably good, right? You have
it's
hands plus leaves. That's a pretty good combo into
Galvantula. You got
yep.
Any matchup where Galvantula takes 2 prize cards easily, I feel like Joltic Box can't lose. It's like you're very favored against them. Galvantula is disgusting when it draws 2 prize cards. So
feels close into the Dragapult decks. Probably the worst into
Charizard for sure. Charizard's coming for you.
You say that, but remember that Charizard's weak to grass.
Well, yeah, it's true.
Galvantula but the Charizard doesn't usually come online until, like, in theory, the Pult Zard player cannot get Zard online fully until the end of the game. In theory, right?
Yeah. I think Joltic Box is probably. I think I'd put it in B tier. I think it's got its ups and downs like all the other decks. It's not a specific it just doesn't feel like it has the power level of something like a Gardevoir or Grimmsnarl in terms of their depth, and it doesn't have like the raw strength of something like the Raging Bolt, where it can kind of force its way through situations as easily. It's a little bit more fragile. You whiff a turn, your opponent has a good response immediately, you're gonna be in trouble. I think I like the B tier, but I think it is like a pretty solid play. I think the meta is like widening up a bit. As long as and it is widening up a bit to the point where you can take a loss to Gardevoir, you can take a loss to Grimmsnarl. The only thing you can't take a loss to is Pult, I think. Despite how mid of a play we seem to think it
Well,
is,
I
it's just
think
gonna be so
there's
popular.
dude, I think there is a point though where it's like you can take a slight like you can't take like maybe an auto loss to it, but you
Yeah, you
can
can
take
take
a
unfavored,
an unfavored and
slightly
say
unfavored.
like, I think this deck's just not gonna do very well.
I would almost be there with you, but I think so many good players are still gonna play Pult because it just feels like the people are just continuing to play Pult in such high numbers because it was the deck they were playing. They played it last format. They're gonna play it this format, and it's gonna take like. And honestly, we're not even gonna see the shift happen because we're gonna get a new set and Worlds is 2 months away, so we don't actually get to see the progression of this meta that much, to be honest. Um, that Pult is like the one that I guess Pult and maybe Raging Bolt, to be honest. I'm like I think taking a loss to Gardevoir, like a loss to Grimmsnarl, is probably just fine. But so yeah, Joltic Box, I think with that idea in mind, take the loss to Raging Bolts. Gardevoir matchup's fine. Grimmsnarl matchup is good. Pult matchups are slightly favored, I would say. So it's like a fine deck. I'd play it over straight Pult. I would definitely play it over straight Pult, I think.
So it was 9.4% in Portland. And I don't think enough has changed to really shift it too far one way or the other. 9.8% in Bologna.
Yeah.
Do you think enough? I mean, if anything, maybe a little bit more with this Grimmsnarl hype, even though it might not be like a warranted reason to have its percentage be boosted.
We got
You
the
feel
Raging Bolt there as well. I think it would come down a little bit. I think there was a little bit of hype behind it towards the end of the format.
okay?
So maybe like
Maybe
8 or
eight,
7.
eight.
Yeah.
I'm good for 8.
Let's do it.
Golden Go Dragapult. So Golden Go started out last format. It was the second most popular deck in Atlanta.
Yeah. And then
People kind of adapted to where Pult Dragapult became the way to play the deck by the time the format was said and done last
yeah.
format. And that probably is still true for this format, right? Like when we looked at the archetype select, there is an option to put just like a regular Golden Go in there, but I think like it's just gold. It's going to be
I
with
mean,
Dragapult. That is just like the
yeah.
best
I
partner
mean,
for the deck
Dragapult
right now.
doesn't do anything in the deck. You're not missing anything if you don't. Like my recent Golden Go build has Dracloaks, but no Dragapult because
Sure.
I think the card's just like so. Yeah, we're just kind of talking about it as far as Golden Go in general because it is just a Golden Go deck. Once again, it's in like another one of those decks where it's like it seems pretty good. I think your Grimmsnarl matchup is favorable if you play the Picnic Basket. Most people have the Picnic Basket in there. Gardevoir matchup is something that people always say is favorable. I'm a little bit iffier on that. I do have the Shaman in my build specifically to try and help against the Gardevoir matchup, take away their Screamtail lines. Um, the Raging Bolt matchup is tough. That is a big matchup. It's unfavorable. And I guess, like I was saying, that is like the one matchup where I feel like I don't want to have a bad Raging Bolt matchup. Is like maybe the one matchup that sticks out to me, or I guess maybe no. That between that and that and Paul are like my top two because I said that about Pult too. Now I'm saying it about Raging Bolt. Those are like my top two decks where I would want to be like feel comfortable against. I guess maybe though, or have like a tech card for them.
The data does support Golden Go having a good Gardevoir matchup.
Yeah, and a bad Raging Bolt matchup. Um, and I think it is favored against Pult builds. I think you're favored against basically every single Pult build, unless they have the Genesect. That could be the one build where you might come up short, to be honest. But I don't know if people are playing Genesect still. I'm not sure where people are at with the Genesect. So
Yeah, it feels like Genesect hype stocks are like down a bit for sure.
yeah,
Still
well,
seems like a
because
solid card, but
Golden Go hype is down, right? Like you were saying, it was like second most popular deck at Atlanta, and then since then, it had a couple results throughout its time. It had a really good showing at Monterey, I want to say, right? And then
yeah,
it
yeah.
kind of just started to like the results weren't there, kept being played less, still didn't pull any results. Maybe one or two top cuts throughout the rest of the format. So I don't expect it to be super popular, but I think it's about as good of play as Joltic Box. So I think I'd rate it just about the same, to be honest. I don't know if you feel any different about Golden Go. I'd put in B, I think.
Just so many all these mid decks here in the middle
Yeah.
tier, you know.
Yeah.
No,
And
I
maybe
think
some of the
it's a
go ahead.
fine place for it for sure. I mean, if anything, I would be inclined to move it up, but I think I don't feel very passionately about it um to like do either way. Um
I guess one thing I'll mention here as we're going through this, because it does kind of seem like we're mentioning decks that are favored against Grimmsnarl, but we still have Grimmsnarl up there. But like Grimmsnarl can kind of beat everything. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't. None of the matchups are terrible. Like I think Joltic Box and Reggie Ball aren't favorable, but it's like fine. And you're like you've got a good Gardevoir matchup, and I think you have even a better. I think your Dragon Ball matchup might be better than your Gardevoir matchup, actually, to be honest. The matchup's just really, really good. So it's really those matchups against the top decks that really carries Grimmsnarl, I feel like, and then the fact that it can beat anything.
Yeah.
Um, all right, up next.
Oh, Metashare.
Oh, true. 5,
Let's see
4.
what it was at Milwaukee or Portland. Sorry. It was 4.
Combine them though. Combine it. Do the 7,
7.
5. I'd still give it probably 5.
Okay. Flareon, Noctowl, Eevee box, as it probably should be listed.
Yeah.
This deck, I think, got better in this new format. It feels like you have a
Yeah.
bad Gardevoir
Definitely.
matchup,
Besides
but
that,
you have a pretty good Grimmsnarl matchup
yep.
with the Leafeon tech. Didn't take people very long to figure that one out.
Mm-hmm. Favored
eh,
into Raging Bolt as well.
I
You get a
think that
favorable
the
there.
ceiling with this deck is probably the highest of all the Noctowl decks for sure. Um, so I think, I mean, I don't think it's going to be extremely popular, but I think this deck is like, I don't know. I feel like it's pretty solid. What do you think?
I kind of
I
want to
don't
put
know
in. I want to put in
enough
an A
about
tier.
I don't know enough about the Grimmsnarl matchup,
It's
but
pretty good.
yeah, I'm down to put. Yeah, I mean, it seems very good to me. It seems much better to me now than it did in the last format.
Yeah, the problem is they can't ever nuke your like Leafeon. It's like really hard for them to KO it ever, especially because like people have started to cut the, and I cut it as well myself. But actually, one of the cards that was played in like the original list from Aichi that I feels like everyone has cut is Defiance Band, which is actually pretty good to help you deal with stuff like that, uh, like the Leafeon, because you just need more damage. You just don't have enough damage to keep up with it. So, um,
Let's
yeah, I'm
look
a pretty
at.
big fan of. Yeah, you said it's got the bad Guardy matchup. Um,
And this deck was like
Besides that,
surprisingly popular in Portland as well, right? Yeah, it
yeah,
was 7%. I think that was like higher than I would have expected it to be going in.
yeah.
Um,
Guardy did take a little bit of a hit, right? Guardy is not as good as it was. Still pretty good though. I think as we're talking through this, I'm kind of like realizing I maybe have been underrating Guardy a little bit in this format in general. But as we're talking through the matchups and like percentages of everything's going to be like, besides the Grimmsnarl matchup, Guardy's still Guardy. Like not that much change, and in fact, it maybe even got better because it got the Shaman. Right? There was the Rapska in the most recent build, but I think everyone's like no one's playing Rapska anymore. You're just doing the Shaman and gaining +1 spot from the Henry Chow, Michael Davidson build.
wow, the meta share or the win rates get boosted pretty heavily when you flip on the day 2 filter for this Flareon deck.
Like it's winning more or
Yeah, winning more, it looks like.
dominating. Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of intricacy to all of like Flareon's matchups, especially like the ones like the Joltic Box matchup and the Raging Bolt matchup to like the Briar lines to take. So, um, it's not super surprising. Also, like
It
Angel
def
Light timing as well against the
Sure.
Dragon Bolt matchup.
Yeah, I mean, the more we're talking about it too, the more I think I like this deck for this event. But
Dodge Guardy.
gotta dodge the Guardies. That's their bad matchup there. But and I don't think it's worth teching for Guardy. Don't play the Umbreon. You don't. I don't even
Yes.
think the Umbreon beats Gardevoir for you. Like
Screamtail is their best attacker, so yeah, the Gardevoir is not in the active that often. Attack with Flareon early, and then aggressively Angelite when your opponent starts to aggress back towards you. That's like
maybe worth playing Shaman. Probably.
I could see it. Yeah, I mean, like I said, Screamtail is the best attacker for Guard 4. I could see running the Shaman in here. It doesn't do anything really against Raging Bolt. You don't care about the Baby Bolt sniping almost ever, but maybe honestly, I definitely like the idea of that way more than Umbreon because lining up the Umbreon play is like super awkward because Gardevoir shouldn't even be in their active to begin with.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
like
actually a
this
good
in
shout.
I like this in A tier. And I don't think that I mean it was 7% in Portland. I'm kind of down to leave this at 7%.
I guess like one thing to think about with this,
Maybe 6 just cuz like there's I don't think like the deck gets I think it gets better, but like I don't think the hype is there for it, you know.
I guess one thing I would mention, we should mention about this deck, and maybe we should talk a little bit about with Raging Bolt as well. And I think Raging Bolt doesn't care as much about this because I think Raging Bolt plays off the board better. Flareon plays through its Noctowls a little bit more heavily. Watchtower, Team Rocket's Watchtower is a
True,
card,
sure, sure,
and
sure.
I think it's a pretty good play as like a one of in Dragapult for sure, and potentially a good inclusion in Golden Go as well. I've been seeing some Flareon lists play the Chien Pao. I went up to 3 Area Zero myself in my build. Jamming Tower could be a cool inclusion as well as another tech card. If you play Shaman plus Jamming Tower, that's pretty good against Gardevoir. That's a pretty good lineup to have against Gardevoir. I don't know. Maybe there's something there with like those inclusions, like the third stadium being the Jamming Tower. Because if you have Shaman on your bench, you force them into Drifloon the active more aggressively. And that's where the Jamming Tower picks you up an extra prize card sometimes. So,
Sounds like you're gonna play some more Flareon and Gardevoir this week.
well, not Gardevoir. I'm definitely not playing Gardevoir for the tournament, but Flareon. Yeah. That is one of those, as I've been thinking about it more yesterday and today, it's definitely a deck that is like, at first I kind of wrote it off. But now it's coming around a little bit more. Even Joltic boxes, like there's so many decks. Like if I had to like the decks I need to pick between right now is Golden Go, Grimmsnarl, Joltic box, and Flareon. Grimmsnarl actually, unfortunately, has becoming. I've been like less and less wanting to play it the closer we get to NAIC. So, which is unfortunate because I like the deck a ton. I was super hype on it early on, but
How do you feel about meta share for Flareon? 6%, 7%?
yeah, it might be up there. We can give it six. Six sounds good to me.
Okay.
All
It
right, now
was
we're getting
over
into
it was
the.
over 7 in Portland.
Now we're getting into a little bit more of the, I don't know, meme tier.
This is where we'll find more decks in C and D tier.
Yeah. Let's start with the Ethan Typhlosion,
Let's throw a
which
little disclaimer out there as well. Like if you're planning to go to NAIC and you're planning to play one of these decks that we're about to talk about, we're not saying like
you shouldn't play it. It's still a
yeah,
good deck. And like if you like I've been saying this like yeah, I mean, yeah, like is Cynthia's Garchomp, do I think it has potential to win the tournament? No. Can you make day two with it? For sure. And if you have something cool and innovative to add to it, that's a pretty big deal in
Yep.
terms of catching your opponent off guard. If you can't come up with anything innovative, this is what I've been saying a lot recently is like just play a good deck and try and be a little bit innovative if you can, but don't stress being innovated. Just play the Brent 60 if you can't come up with anything else to do, right? It's not that bad thing to do. But yeah, these decks, obviously, I don't think anyone rates them super highly. Even the players who are bringing them to tournaments, a lot of them just kind of like the Pokemon, like the decks. I don't think a lot of the players who bring something like a Cynthia's Garchomp, like a Team Rocket's Mewtwo, are like, all right, I think I can win the tournament with this thing. But maybe they do, and maybe it's better than we think it is, which is honestly, that would be pretty cool if Team Rocket's Mewtwo is like a tier 1 deck, right? I'm not against that.
So let's start with the Ethan's Typhlosion. Um this is the one I was kind of hopeful for, I think, out of the setup here. It would be cool to have like a good one prize deck that like
Yeah.
really is leans heavily on just a single prize, like using that. Like, I mean, Gardevoir is attacking with one prizers most of the time, right?
It's not a
But
one prize deck.
yeah, like with Ethan's Typhlosion, like your entire engine, like the deck is built around being this one prize deck. You do have Pidgeot in there in most lists, it seems, but um, yeah, it doesn't feel like it's great right now. I think looking ahead, maybe Black and White set comes out, the
Silver
Silver
Bangle is
Bangle card.
huge.
There's some really good numbers that line up for Ethan's Typhlosion. The deck is consistent, right? It gets to attacking with a Typhlosion on turn 2, turn 3, like pretty consistently, I'd say. Um,
Yeah. I would argue actually that its consistency. No, its consistency is one of its bigger flaws. Like whiffing, like team. If you get off a Team Evo, the deck feels super good. But then from there, chaining together those big knockouts gets really tough because you have to have either. I mean, you play the maximum belt, but once that goes, if you're playing maximum belt, you're not playing unfair step, you're not playing secret box, and then your other combos to get like another big one hit KO potentially is like Gravity Mountain plus Kieran or something. Like you need like a much bigger combo. Once the Iona start hitting, you're kind of in trouble. So, I think the deck. For our tier list, the way we have it right now, the deck probably belongs in D tier, but I almost wish we had a 6th tier to work with because I would probably put this a tier above the last tier. I think there's some other decks that belong in the last tier. I think Ethan's Typhlosion is better than some of these other decks as a play, but I think for the tier list that we have, it has to go into D tier.
yeah, can't go
It's like,
alongside Dragapult, I don't think.
yeah, I don't think so.
Probably, 2% meta share, 1%, probably a 1%er.
1%, yeah, for sure.
All right, Charizard Pidgeot.
I mean, why would you play this?
We just said we're not saying you shouldn't play this deck, but Azul might
Look,
be saying it about Charizard
you
Pidgeot.
lose to all the Dragapults. You lose to Grimmsnarl. Honestly, I don't even know if you have that good of a Flareon matchup anymore. They can play it super slow, and they have the Leafeon to one-hit KO you back. Your Gardevoir matchup is good. You are beating
Yep.
Gardevoir.
Raging
Congratulations.
Bolt's probably pretty good too.
I don't know if you beat Joltic Box. The Galvantula is just he's crazy, man. If you can use Galvantula consistently for a 2-hit in a matchup, it's just he's just kind of insane. Um, man, yeah, I don't know.
Stick him in D.
Yeah, it's got to go in D, right? It's got to go in D. But I think I would. I think I would. I think it being alongside Typhlosion is probably correct. But there's going to be a couple other decks that enter D tier where I would put Charizard and Ethan's above them, but not into the Dragapult.
We can maybe rearrange these and say we're ordering. I know you
Yeah.
don't normally like to order the decks within the tiers, but we could probably do a little bit of that.
Yeah. Usually I do that based on just like what I would play. That's how I usually order them. But
So Charizard Pidgeot's, I mean, it was only 2% in Portland. And I think that some of the meta share of people who like, because some people just like to play Charizard, right?
of course, yeah. So that's
Shout out
like a lot where a lot of
Jackson
it's.
Ford out there, the
Well, hold on. He's at least playing the best the best Charizard. He's playing Dragapult
yes.
Charizard.
And that's what my point was going to be, right? I think that some of the like there's 1.9% meta share for Portland. Probably 50% of those people, if they want to play Charizard for this event, we could see them moving to Dragapult Charizard, right? Like I don't think that's a
Yeah, that's
crazy
yeah.
move, right?
1%. Is that what you're saying?
I'm thinking a 1%er, bro.
Yeah, there was like some, especially post. What was the tournament? It wasn't Champions League, was it? Oh no, it was Champions League where
It
Charizard
was a
kind of
Champions
dominated.
League,
There was
yeah.
like a lot of Charizard being played on ladder in online tournaments post the Aichi Champions League because there was 4 Charizards in cut, but I think as we've seen the meta, but I don't know, maybe their meta just progressed to the point where I forget, Polt was just not successful at all that tournament. Maybe their meta actually progresses and ours just doesn't because like Polt was 0 Polt in top 16. Which I honestly that makes sense. Why would there be Polt in cut in this metagame? Oh no, well Polt Zard won, I guess, but it's like heavy Zard. It was like a 3-2 Zard. So Polt Zard is a little bit different, of course, but um outside of Polt Zard, yeah, I don't know. Just straight Charizard is just not it
Yeah.
for sure.
All right. Next up, kind of the flagship deck from the set, Rockets Mewtwo. 50% of the set feels like it's dedicated to trying to get this card to work. Spot ups is good. The engine is good. Or not the engine, the attackers, the options are good, but the engine is lacking. There's no supports. There's no draw
Yeah.
power on board. That's where this deck is really coming up short right now. But
It's gotta go in the D tier, I
it's
think,
got to
for
go in the
sure.
D tier. I was gonna
Yeah.
maybe try to make an argument for it to be in the C tier.
No, but honestly, I wouldn't be like surprised to see someone like get a top 32 with like when I play the deck it's like pretty good. Like it's not it's like it's obviously like a lot of people compare it to Raging Bolts. I wouldn't do that personally because you play through Spite Up. You can play through Spite Up so heavily, it completely changes how you can play your prize trades. Um like the deck is like it's like it feels like you can be competitive. So like someone getting like
Yeah.
a top 32 or something with a Mewtwo Spite Ops deck would not like shock me
I don't
at
think it would
all.
shock me too much to see this deck in top cut.
Chill. All right, I don't know about that. Not even a winning in. They're winning up into 32 for sure. There's no shot. But I think it'll be more popular than Ethan's Typhlosion and Charizard. Probably 2 or 3% meta share. Probably 2.
We'll give it the 2 for now. I mean it is like the flagship deck of the set, like I don't know how much like does that boost it really. It is it's actually fallen off pretty heavy in the online streets it
Let's check its
seems.
what is its win? I'm curious. Its win percentages.
It's
Is it bad?
matchups losing to Bolt, beating Grimmsnarl,
Yeah.
uh
Already's
losing to
tough.
Gardevoir, losing to Poltzard, losing to Ethan's Typhlosion, beating Joltic,
Beating the Joltic. All right.
beating Polt Dusknor.
All right. It's not terrible, right? But yeah, I think it belongs in the D tier. There's too many decks that are too. There's a lot of decks in this format to be honest. Kind of like the last format, I guess. Not too far off. Just kind of added Grimmsnarl to the mix, and that's about it as far as like powerhouse decks. Another weaker deck, of course, the Cynthia's Garchomp, and this feels pretty similar to me personally. Honestly, like the Mewtwo deck, like the Ethan's Typhlosion. It's not terrible. Like the deck is like not terrible, but it's not that great either. So I think another D tier deck here for sure.
Yeah, and
And
probably another one
one,
percenter as well.
yeah.
Um, I think this is the one of these bottom decks that has the most like unrealized potential, I'd say. I think that this is the one that, this of these 4 decks, this is the one that I think I would most expect to see someone come up with something for it, you know? I feel like Mewtwo's kind of been fleshed out. Ethan's Typhlosion is pretty straightforward, right? But, like, there's a lot of different ways you could approach a Cynthia's Garchomp deck.
I guess I actually, maybe maybe it has been it's been played less, but I feel like there's also less room to add stuff to the deck. There's less to do with the deck than something like I think you can get more creative in Ethan's and Mewtwo, whereas Cynthia's you're a little bit more just based on how the cards are designed. You're a little bit more pigeonholed into like two different ways to play it. I don't know unless someone comes up with something else. But you got like you got the Monkey Dory way, or just like kind of the straightforward way, which is the way I prefer to play. Just kind of straightforward, just 4-3 Rose Raid line or something like that. Um, but I mean, I hope there's more to go with. I mean, it's also one of those decks where it's kind of waiting. It's waiting for the Fighting Power tablet. Um,
Mm.
once that comes out, like Ethan's Grimmsnarl was waiting for the Silver Bangle. Like we could see a lot of these owners Pokemon get unlocked in a couple sets from now, and all of a sudden become powerhouse decks.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not gonna
It's
get
always
new
cool to see.
cards in the form of, like, new Pokemon, right? And,
Yeah, no
like,
new
owner
owners cards.
supports, but the trainers that they can use just for their specific typings, yeah, could definitely
Yeah.
pop up and help a bit. Alright, Roaring Moon. So with this, we're assuming it's like the Baby Moon deck, the Aiden Koos deck, right?
Oh, I was assuming this was Warren Mooney X because that did win the last major tournament of the last format. Simon with the Mooney
Oh,
X Moon.
sure,
Yeah.
sure.
The Baby Moon deck, I mean, we could have maybe put that on the tier list as well, to be honest.
No, you're right, that's what it
Yeah.
should be Mooney X. I'm tripping for sure.
I don't even know how I'd rate the Baby Moon deck. I don't actually know if that much changed for it. It's maybe still the exact same deck that it was previously, just kind of like a fine deck.
So
But
Moon EX.
I definitely at least put it in C tier. The question is there an argument to put it in D tier? Um, I don't know if there is. I'm pretty sure you're.
I didn't play any games with this deck, so I don't have any strong opinions.
I mean, I think you can compete against most things. I think your Grimmsnarl matchup is bad though. Because
I will
Grimmsnarl
say
can.
as well, in tournaments, being a little cheesy, stealing games where you maybe shouldn't have been able to win them otherwise, like, those wins are valuable. Every single win at a regionals is, like, super, super valuable, so
This deck is definitely cheesy, that's for sure. Probably the cheesiest deck in the format. Um, I think you
I
can compete against most things though. Like I think the deck actually can line up fine into most decks.
I feel very fine about it being in C tier based on all this.
Yeah, I think we definitely have a little bit of lack of information, but I'm definitely more inclined to put it higher than lower for sure. It's like C could see it being B as opposed to C could see it being D.
So, I mean, this is definitely just a 1%, right?
Yeah, definitely. Give it 1. Actually, it could be 2, but let's give it 1. Make it easy.
And we'll wrap it up with Tera Box. So Tera Box, I'm just putting it up here for visibility. We'll put it in the
Yep,
right spot here momentarily. But
which is D tier.
D tier, yeah. So Tera
Yeah.
Box is the one that definitely got hit the hardest with the new format. It feels like just because of Shaman, right? It
Yeah.
slots into a lot of decks. It probably will be played in a lot of decks just naturally. And Tera Box was really preying on the fact that no bench protection existed, right? So now, like, the main thing that you had going for your deck, you don't have going for your deck anymore.
Yeah, it was like the big deck going into this format, and then it fell off pretty quickly. Had a really bad results at Atlanta, and it was starting to pick up steam back at the end of the format. We saw Caleb Rogerson get a good placement with it, and I think it was a pretty good play in general for the last couple weeks of the format. But yeah, going to this tournament, this is where I would actually put Terra Box below every deck in D tier if I could.
I mean, to be
Um,
honest, well, here's so Terrabox, how it was in the last format, like, we almost could just, like, not even have it on this tier list for this tournament,
Yeah,
right?
but it's almost like one of those things. I like putting like decks to like show where they are now. You know, it's like it was a deck last format for at least the first tier list of a format. I always like adding those decks to the tier
But
list.
low key, showing where they are now could be showing them not on the tier list.
True, as
Sometimes
long as you give
enough
them a shout.
changes, right?
Yeah,
Um, but I will say I wouldn't be too like because the engine, like the Ogre Pond cards are powerful. Teal Mask Ogre Pond, Pikachu EX is obviously a very good attacker, right? And Noctowl is one of the best support engines that our game has right now in standard. So I wouldn't be surprised to see someone else come up with some other Noctowl Pikachu Ogre deck that maybe has the Teal Mask in there, but I think it's going to be, I mean, maybe it will be Terra Box, but I think I wouldn't be surprised to see something that looks a lot different than what we saw in the last format do decently at this tournament.
Yeah, just some other like Noctowl box deck for sure. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
Flareon kind of is that, but there could be something else. I agree. There could be definitely something else out there that we haven't seen. But Terra Box, definitely pretty terrible play. 1% meta share.
I mean,
Someone's gonna play it.
I'm down to just remove it. You want to just remove it?
Yeah, I guess we could.
Delete it.
Don't remove it. If you remove it, I think it'll reset the thing.
All right, we'll leave it here and we'll do 0.
Yeah,
No,
there we go.
we'll do what, 0.5 maybe? Well, 0.5. You think
Yeah,
it'll
learn
probably
course
still
of
be
action.
1%?
Uh, yeah, sure. Well, actually, what has it been in online tournaments? It maybe deserves a 0.5. Who is playing Terra Box?
True. Dex. Terra Box 0.9.
Yeah, give it the 0.5 treatment.
0.5 treatment. Sheesh.
Yeah, going into this format, or as we like initially when I was thinking about NAIC, I was like, I don't know, Shaman doesn't seem like that good of an inclusion. The more I've played the format, though, I'm thinking like it just kind of feels like every stage 2 deck should play Shaman. If you're Dragapult's the main one. I think that 100% should play Shaman. I think
So
Gardevoir and Grimmshaw are a little bit more questionable. What they probably should include as well.
with that discussion, how does that affect Gardevoir? Because that's one of the main reasons to be playing Shaman, right? It is very good against Screamtail, which is like Gardevoir's best attacker probably right now.
Yeah. So most decks.
Or does Gardevoir look different?
What do you mean?
Like
Just like
Drifloon, Bravery Charm, heavy into that, or the Monkey Dory, like, attack
sure,
with Guardy EX version of the deck, right? Like,
I mean, Screamtail is always something you play, and it's always going to be a tool they have, and it can be like I would say it's in some matchups you don't even like plan for that to be your game plan, but sometimes the game just plays out where it's like, oh, I have to take the Screamtail line here, so completely eliminating that from Gardevoir is kind of nice. Like that's why I even put Shaman in my Golden Go list recently because I was like, you know what, they kind of like using Screamtail sometimes against me. What if we just remove that as like a factor? Not only do we shut off the Baby Ball, and I think the main reason for some of the stage 2 decks to actually play, like if Baby Bolt didn't exist in Raging Bolt, I don't think Dragapult needs Shaman for Gardevoir. You kind of just need it for the Baby Bolt, but then you can also utilize it against Gardevoir, and it can also be utilized against Grimmsnarl as well. It does take Frost Blast damage, of course, but you kind of force, instead of getting sniped for 30 wherever the Grimmsnarl player wants to put it, you force the damage onto the Shaman. So now instead of taking 20 wherever, instead of the Grimmsnarl player putting 20 wherever they want, over 2 turns, 20 gets built up on your Shaman. So you get to dictate where you can take less damage and you get to dictate where it goes. Of course, Shaman only has 80 HP. So if you put it down in the early game, it's going to probably not work out super favorable. But in the mid-late game, there definitely are situations where you make it harder for the Grimmsnarl player to like do a TM Devo play because you play the Shaman. So, yeah, I think all should play the Shaman. I don't think it really changes too much about how any deck is built either. Like you still play Baby Bolt, you still force the other, because also finding Shaman is tough. It's got 80 HP. That's kind of annoying to go get, right?
sure.
So you force those decks to like I've had that come up quite a bit on ladder where I played Raging Bolt recently, and I like they choose second. I attach turn 1 to Raging Bolt, pass, and they don't find it out to Shaman. I start sniping, and they find Shaman like a turn or 2 later. So making people respect it. And then also you sometimes catch people without the Shaman, and you just get to run over them with Baby Bolt. So, but yeah, I think all the today's shoe decks you just gotta play Shaman for there's enough situationals out there where it makes it worth it.
Do you feel good about our placements of things right now? You want to move anything around within the tier lists? Like I'd be down to move Dusknoir down a little bit here. Like Joltic, like I like Charizard, Dragapult, I think the most of these 4. And then
Yeah,
maybe
well,
like Golden Go.
We can start with tier 1. Start
Okay,
with tier
sure.
1. I think Raging Bolt is probably a little bit better. Is Raging Bolt the best play going into the tournament? Is that really where we are? Is this just
Bro.
lining up to be a really good play, a really good tournament for Gardevoir? Again, that's kind of how I'm feeling. The more we go through this tier list, I'm like, is everything just lining up for Gardevoir again? I don't know.
It's lining up for Flareon. I kind of, after talking about it, low-key want to put Flareon
Of
up.
Gardevoir up.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're talking about tier. I don't know about tier 1. Gardevoir is such like a force in terms of
You were
success
talking about how it's
potential.
like this is a tournament that it's fine to take a bad matchup,
Yeah, I think
right?
you can still take the L to Gardevoir because I think there's something actually there to check Gardevoir where there was nothing last format. So
Sure.
you can all of a sudden take the L to Gardevoir, just like you could take the L to Grimmsnarl because there's enough other stuff that beats Grimmsnarl. But yeah, for Flareon Noctowl, Yeah.
Well, how do you feel about is Grimmsnarl in S or in tier 1?
I mean, because I think you have such a good because Dragapult. I think one thing that we are like gets left out a little bit here is just how popular Dragapult's still going to be. I think it'll be a little bit more than the percentage we have it there. We only have it at like 16%. It'll be like 17, 18 probably still. How popular Dragapult's still going to be, and how many good players are still going to play Dragapult. So having a good Dragapult matchup, I think looks when you look at this tier list, it's because the Dragapult decks are all split up. It's like, oh wait, why is why is Grimmsnarl up there? It's like because it's favored against all the Dragapult builds. Like that's a pretty good thing to have as um uh, a favorable matchup still. So that's the thing I have to keep reminding myself actually as we're looking at this tier list and talking about it is like, wait, Dragapult's still a huge deck. It's gonna still be really successful because it's gonna be so heavily played. A lot of good players still play it. That's why I put Grimmsnarl so high still. Also a good guard for matchup. When we're talking about like good players playing decks, it's gonna be Pult and Guardy, right? And Grimmsnarl is favored against both of them.
You think we'll see good players show up and play Grimmsnarl? Like a group of good players from somewhere in the world. Like, are the Australians going to roll up with Grimmsnarl? Are the big group of Americans that's kind of formed throughout this season? Are they going to roll up with Grimmsnarl? Do you foresee any of that?
I
That
think
would
they're
be
more
kind of a
likely to.
fun prediction thing to do as well as predict what each testing group is going to play for the
Yeah,
tournament.
I think they're more likely to roll up with Gardevoir than Grimmsnarl, especially when you're talking about Chow and crew, right? And even the Australians, I think. I don't know. I could see them. I could see the Australians rolling up with Grimmsnarl for sure. They usually just kind of play whatever they think the best deck is. So if they rolled up with Raging Bolt, I wouldn't be shocked. like, but yeah, I think that. But like I said, like I think the majority, like, the highest concentration of good players are going to be playing Polt and Gardevoir probably still. So I mean, you're favored against those with Grim, right? And if we're talking about that, like you said, like if we think that American group and the Australians are playing Gardevoir, sounds like a good reason to play Grimmsnarl, right? If you're a good player, you're like, well, yeah, sounds cool. And you can also like you can beat everything else. Like I said, I think it's unfavored against Raging Ball. You're unfavored against Joltic Box, but Grimmsnarl's got a lot of depth and different things you can do with the deck. So you have answers to everything.
You like the order here of B tier?
Honestly, yeah, I think it's probably good. I would play personally. I'd play Golden Go. Well, I don't know. Golden. No, like the Charizard Pulp probably does go above. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I would personally would play. I don't think I'd ever play Pulp at NAIC. Like I'd always play Joltic Box or Golden Go over it. But for the criteria that we gave, I like it.
Moon and Dragapult being alone in C tier. I think Dragapult being above that probably is fine in my
Nah,
mind.
I give the
Nah?
Moon the edge. Give the Moon the edge for
Okay.
sure.
I'll
Straightforward
default to
is
you.
so mid. The deck is so mid. I'd rather be able to Petch Donk than draw pass for 6 turns.
And then, I mean, I think we can definitely agree Terra Box is down here. Probably Charizard should be down here. Would you play? You'd probably play Charizard over Terra Box.
Yeah, I
You
don't
wouldn't
think I
be
would
pumped
play it
about
over anything
either.
else. I'd rather bring something new than Charizard Pidgeot or like any other version of Charizard Terra Box, whatever, or like Charizard Noctowl.
Is this lineup fair?
Yep.
Ethan's
Mewtwo.
Rockets, Cynthia.
Yeah. Ethan's definitely the strongest.
Well, there we go. There's our tier list. I think we're set on that. Feel good about it. I'll take a quick little screenshot to save it. And
Hang on, scroll down real fast. Am I trolling? No, scroll up. Is there not a download button? Maybe there wasn't. I thought there was a download button somewhere. Oh,
oh,
there it
there
is, top
is.
right. I was like, I swear there's a download button.
That'll work. I'm gonna save it over here so we can maybe post it this week. And one thing we didn't talk about beforehand that we should definitely do
Right.
is some predictions.
Oh, that's a
So,
good call.
so I mean, I think some good predictions to do would be pick a player to make cut. Right, that's kind of been one of
Yep.
our go-tos, and this is fun too because we get the full international crew in here. I think based on our conversation, highest placing Rockets Mewtwo,
Okay.
and then you got another idea?
We could all. I mean, we could do pick what the Australians are going to play. I think that would be. We talked about it, so we could go one further. We could say pick what the Australians are going to play. We could, and
Bro,
also
but what if,
do.
like, what we say here could influence that?
What do you mean?
Like, what if they, like, wanna be
No way
I
it's ever
they're
going to
not gonna get
influence.
there, they're not gonna get there. We could pick the deck that they wanna play exactly, and they'd still roll up and play it.
No, yeah. They're like, "Wait, how do they know?" And they, like, panic, and it's like, "Does everyone just know we're 60 or something?" No, there's no way.
No, they don't
We
care.
could go further. We could do both groups. We could do,
Those are like
Cal,
it feels like
Bradner, and
those
crew, and
are
then also the Australians.
I feels like the three kind of biggest groups when it
Mhm.
comes to these international tournaments to like keep your eye on is for sure the Australians, probably leading the way. Then there's like the American super group that's kind of formed, like Henry Chow, Hedrick, Bradner,
Yep.
uh, all those friends all working together, and then like with Davidson and Caleb Rogerson, that whole crew, and then the Brazilians. Those are kind of
Yeah.
the three biggest groups in the game, it feels like right now.
Yeah, now that they stopped playing Charizard, they're actually contending
It
for,
doesn't feel like there's one big collective out of Europe right now. There has been in the past, like with Limitless and stuff, but it
Yeah,
doesn't
there
feel
definitely
like
is, like, smaller
right.
yeah, there yeah, like, there isn't something, like, that the community knows about like there used to be. It's not like, "Oh, yeah, that's, like, the big European group." I can't even, like, think of,
That
a
like
group of
all works
players.
together, right?
Yeah, not like the Limitless crew was, right? Like, there was the Limitless crew, but besides that, it's been a while since there's been something like that, I think, from Europe, where we can, like yeah, where the community at wide kinda knows about them. Like, everyone knows about the Australian group, everyone knows about, Bradner and crew, or now
And
Bradner,
the
Chow, Hedrick and crew.
yeah.
Um,
And
so
all the William and Pedro Pertusi and
yeah, yeah, of course, and then know about that. So, I mean, we could predict for each of them, to be honest. I'd be down to try and pick each of their decks, see what we can get it right, but we could start with pick a player to make time. I know mine. If you wanna go first, though.
are you gonna pick yourself?
No.
You don't feel confident.
I have a good storyline pick.
Ooh, interesting. Okay. I'm gonna pick Ian Robb.
Okay.
I
I'm
think I like Flareon a lot. He played it last format. I think he literally tweeted Leafeon EX
dude,
today, and
he's
like
always
that was
tweeting
it.
stuff. He tweeted Jolting Charge, I think, recently too, bro.
He just
Like,
tweets like Pokemon things, and that's it. Just
I think it's literally
ominous.
whenever he's, like, thinking in a moment, he's like he, like, comes up with some kind of, like, new innovation for a deck, or he's just like, "Wait, this seems like a pretty good play." He just goes and tweets. Like,
Yeah, but he's
I'm
someone who I feel like locks in big time for these big tournaments, you know.
yeah.
And yeah, I'm going with Ian Robb. Who's your storyline pick?
I am going with Daniel Magda. 3 top cuts at ICs in a single season. He's gonna get another one here. If he's going. I don't know for sure if he's going. I'm assuming he's going. So yeah, I'm going with Magda.
Yeah, he was in Portland, so
True. If you're going to Portland, you're probably going to NAIC. And he probably had priority reg as well. So
yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good shout. It's freshman of the year closing things out, right?
yeah. Probably solidify him as rookie of the year as well, I think.
That's what
Um
yeah, freshman season, that's what kind of what I
oh sure, sure, sure,
said.
sure. All right, next one
Let's pick one
was
of the groups to predict. Let's not predict all
okay.
let's not have like 5
Well, let's
predictions this
I want
week.
to go with the Latin American crew then because I
Okay.
feel like they're the least predictable. So it'll make things
Mm.
most interesting. Dude, if they roll up with Charizard, I'm gonna be pissed. He's so mad if they lay Charizard. But yeah, highest playing Rockets Mewtwo. I'm gonna go with a top 256.
Sheesh. Yeah, that's probably not a terrible guess, to be honest. Some like there will be a couple in day 2 for sure, right? Um Day 2 is gonna be 800 people maybe, like,
Jeez,
it's gonna be a
be a
lot of
lot.
it's gonna be a regionals in day 2, and it's gonna be 5 rounds.
Just run another tournament, man. Let's just do it again.
Oh, man. The system is a little silly sometimes. Yeah. We're probably gonna have, like, 3,800 masters, by the way. Like, that's what it
Yeah,
feels like.
yeah, 38, 39. Not quite the 4K number, but we'll get there next season.
Um, I'm gonna go should I believe or should I be realistic?
You're usually a believer,
I
and it
am
has worked
usually a
out.
believer.
It
It's
has worked out.
but it's also has it worked out more than it's hurt me, though?
I don't know, but it's hype. But it's like way more hype when it like works out, right? Like
Come
that
on,
makes up
baby.
for.
Top 64.
Okay, I mean that's like not that.
And you
I
know who
think
it's
it.
gonna be?
Who do you know who's playing?
Yes. Max Rarity, Jose Marrero, Rockets Mewtwo. Shout outs to our boy Jose. That's
Dude,
that's
yeah,
like
I could
his
see him
type of deck,
playing.
and he would play it in Max Rarity as well.
True, true, true. I could see it.
Um, what will the Latin American crew play? So they've played William just won with Gardevoir, right? They played Charizard most of the year,
It did. I know.
for
I
better or
mean,
for worse.
yeah, William wasn't there, but Pedro and some of the other Brazilian players.
Rafi.
Yeah, they played Maridon at Merida, so they're bouncing around a little bit. They're off the Charizard, which is good. But honestly, like Charizard is better than it has been recently, so I hope they don't come back to it unless they come up with some cool innovation. Right? They got something in their pocket. I wouldn't hate to see it. But I'm gonna predict Grimmsnarl. I'm gonna say they're gonna play the Grim.
That's what like I was leaning towards as well, to be honest. Let's see. For LAIC, they played the Charizard Tera like Noctowl deck, right?
Yeah,
What did they play at EUIC?
Charizard.
Just Charizard.
I don't remember for sure. I'm just guessing, but it's a good guess.
It was Charizard, yeah.
Yeah.
Low key, I could see them rolling up with Flareon. I'm gonna go with EV Box.
Okay. I
I'm gonna
like
go with
that.
EV Box.
Honestly, I think we will. I feel like Joltic Box is almost in a similar situation where it doesn't feel. I feel like EV Box is the deck that I think like between like Golden Go Joltic Box and EV Box all feel like decent plays in me, but I think good players are going to gravitate towards something like the EV Box over the other two for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
A bit more agency,
yeah.
one could say.
You make your opponent have to work really hard because there's so many plays the deck can do sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially if you play the Trumpet. If anyone's looking for like a last card inclusion at the EV Box, play the Glass Trumpet. It's so good.
Item-based energy acceleration is traditionally very strong in the Pokemon trading card game.
For sure.
All
Most
right, buddy.
definitely.
Anything else you want to say here about NAIC? Any final words to the people going? Are people going to for sure see you at NAIC?
Yes, I will be there. Honestly, at this point, hopefully playing Flareon Box. I hope I end up on that deck once I play through with the rest of them.
Let's go.
But man, it's such a shame, dude. I was so hype on Grimmsnarl, but the closer we get, the worse I like it worse as a play. Better as a play, worse as a play. But that's all I got, Chip. Send us out.
All right. Thanks so much to everyone for listening. As always, Azul and I will both be in New Orleans this weekend. So looking forward to meeting a bunch of you guys this weekend for sure. And if you enjoy the podcast, please be sure to leave us a like, review, rating, comment, subscribe. All those things help us out a bunch. Let more people discover the podcast, see what we're doing over here. And if you want to stay up to date with what's happening in our lives, the best place to do it is over on X. You can follow myself at Chip Ritchie, Azul at Azul_GG. You can follow the podcast at uncommon_energy.
Appreciate the support as always. We'll catch y'all at the what is the regularly scheduled broadcasting or whatever Wednesday 7 a.m. Eastern. Peace.